Hello, Heiner. Heiner. There you are.
Hi, Sam. I still and today have a lot of background noises. I try to go on my desktop with my mic, but I'm happy to see you. I hope everything is fine.
Everything is actually quite good. We could catch up and you could still come visit here, Heiner. That's still on the agenda. And your video disappeared.
Yes.
So what's on with you? What's current?
It's 8 hours.
And maybe listen.
I can't hear you anymore. Did you drop?
This is a reminder. Feed the puppies. This is a reminder. Feed the puppies.
Glenn. It's been quite a while, Glenn.
Hey, yeah, good to see you. Yeah, it's been some busy weekends. I've been visiting my brothers last weekend. It's really wonderful, but you know, yeah, lots of stuff happening. And then the one before that, there was this retreat weekend I helped organize. Yeah, so it's been a little while. I have seen a little bit of the videos though, a little from the Kayla session. Hello, Alex.
Yeah, so I'm curious about this workshop, Glenn. What was the focus of the workshop, and how are you part of the organizing group?
Well, it's a group that's been working with the Gurdjieff work for many years. So it's a group they've been working for quite a long time, and the focus was actually the basic laws of the universe. So really, deep questions about sort of the basic constants of existence and processes, for example, how do processes play out, and obviously with a large emphasis on psychological development as well, like how, for example, does the psychological evolutionary process play out, in terms of sequences. And because for example, when you start a process, it's usually a momentum at the beginning, but then after a while, the momentum sort of loses a little bit of its energy, and then the process might move in a different direction. And when does that happen, etc. Yeah.
We need to trigger some inflationary expansion.
Yes, something. It's a very interesting question. It's how do you sort of understand those things? Heiner, Colin.
The network universe.
Yeah, that too, right? Like it's a network of many scales and processes that also mix together, which obviously is another part of it.
Yeah, the fascinating thing is graphene, the structure of the atoms in the carbon molecules, because they're hexagonal. They get six
Like
specific
this.
points. Yeah, like that, and they grow in crystal-like fashion. If you get graphene, it's got a super strength compared to other materials. It's incredible strength. They want to make bulletproof armor out of it. It's just like a fabric, you know.
It's the same structure as flow. Yeah.
Is this a topic you would like to bring for a future Saturday?
Strong networks, yeah, powerful networks that grow hexagonal. They diverge via a bifurcation, a split, the same way organic matter grows.
Yeah, it's something about this structure that somehow goes through all of nature. I mean, what's called sacred geometry, for example. Well, to your question, Sam, yeah, I mean, it would sort of build on this topic of truth, which I had one session. I also felt that Jas Winder's session sort of continued that a little bit, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely things I'm incredibly interested in.
I think I like the fact that you bring it up as truth. I think truth is one of these core themes that I am just constantly amazed and shocked sometimes that this notion of truth seems to be not so ubiquitous, that we don't have a common notion of what truth means. And I think that's a very, very curious phenomenon.
Yeah.
I'll bring up more as people gather, but I think I want to get going since it's already 5 past and you guys are quite prompt. So let's do the following. By the way, I have notes from Kayla and from Stacia that they're on their way. So Kayla's going to be late and Stacia, I think, is just about here. I just pasted the link to her chat. So welcome everybody, Carl. Especially, I got an interaction from you saying you were going to potentially use the brain to capture what it is that might be happening here.
Yeah, had a lot of bizarre stuff going on, so I actually had to create a new account to get my account was messed up. So if you try to go to it, it seemed to not recognize my pro account for some reason, but. So.
That's a big deal because you're spending money with them, so hopefully they'll respond.
Yeah, they'll take. We'll straighten it out on Monday.
Yeah, since you know the guys real well, that's good.
Yeah, 20 years.
Oh. Okay, all right. Well, as is our habit, how about any landing, any presencing, any checking in that people want to do? It's optional, but feel free. Heiner's in a beer garden, it looks like. We have Stacia with us. Okay, I'll check in real quick. Okay, things have been going well at work. And Ronnie's been happy, and our puppies are thriving. But supplies are getting depleted. We've been doing this experiment where we're trying to see how long we can go without going shopping. So the thing that made me reconsider is I have to go get some dog food. We're close to running out of dog food. So it's a curious question how you time various supplies so you can optimize your trips and you can potentially lengthen these trips to the shopping locations. Anyway, that's my quick check-in. Things are going good. It's actually quite cloudy today. It's not a very summery day, but that's one of the reasons I love it here in the Pacific Northwest. That's it for me. Over. Hey, Jaswinder. Anybody else want to check in, or shall we just dive right in? Going once. Going twice. Sold. Okay. So my reflections on the last 2 or 3 months of individually focused, individually moderated sessions is the following. I'm curious to see how we as a group, and I do use the word we here, collect what we've learned out of these sessions So I have a number of questions that I'd like to ask each of us. I believe, Carl, you're the only one here who did not take a session. Oh, Stacia also. She probably also is not. But I'm hoping that these questions are still relevant and interesting. So here are the following questions. And in my mind, I'm wondering whether I should go one by one, okay, for each of you, and ask all of the questions and have that discussion. Or should I just circle through everybody question by question by question by question so I have multiple rounds? So that's the one that I'm not quite sure about yet. So let me read to you my questions and let's see what you guys think and how you would advise. Number one, in meetings, in conversations like this one, is focus important to you? If it is, what else ranks above focus when we're having these discussions? Okay, so that's question number one. Question number two, have you rewatched your session? Question number three, could you describe your preparation? What did you do to prepare for your session? Number four, your objectives, which will hopefully include focus. Did you achieve your objectives? Number five, are you open to feedback from others on how your session went? Hey, Stacia. Stacia, if you haven't met Stacia yet, is a neighbor here on the island. She's probably about 20 miles away, but I don't think we've actually met yet. But I'm glad she's interested in what's going on here. Stacia, I think you're on mute. Okay, let me see if I can unmute you. Hey, Stacia, you're on mute.
Microphone is not working. Our microphone is not working, Sam.
Oh, the microphone's not working. Okay, all right. Let me see here. I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. Let's see. So, I don't know, we're gonna definitely be interested to hear from you, but we're gonna have to monitor the chat pretty well.
She'd have to call in if she would have
Oh,
it.
that's right, you can use your phone. Do you want a phone number to dial into? Yeah, let me see if I can find that. Can anybody else check in while I find the phone number for this meeting? Let me go see if I can do so.
Well, if somebody would like to repeat the questions, I could start answering the question. Is focus important to me? I think that's the first one. Sorry, Alex, you want to go first?
No, I'm just going to repeat them myself. Number two. If you
All right,
watch
hang
it
on.
back,
Let me paste them into the chat, okay? I reworded some of them, so we may have to consider.
What if we sort of take a round through the room and you, Sam, ask each person the different questions, sort of like an interview? Maybe it's easier then.
Okay,
I don't know.
Okay, so let's do bing, 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 bing. I'll ask one question. Everybody gets a chance to go answer that question, and then we'll go next. How's that, okay? Because that'll keep it more lively, okay?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
Hey, did I actually hear someone say yes? Was that Stacia?
Yep.
Yes.
I hear your voice.
Oh, Stacia.
So there is a microphone on that device.
Oh my heavens.
Who else?
I'll be having you over here this week, Sam, to fix all this for me. Thank you. Ask your question. Let's engage. Let's go.
That's what my job is. I'm the IT department for my daughter. You know.
Excellent.
Okay, so here's the first question. Okay, and Stacia, if you didn't hear, hopefully you did hear, but every one of us took a weekend or a Saturday and brought a topic of focus and our moderation skills, and we're trying to see whether or not we actually achieve focus and whether we, as a group, are learning how to conduct these sessions and achieve focus and achieve some good moderation skills. So the first question that everybody will get, and those who did not take a Saturday, still talk about in general when you moderate your sessions and when you're actually in these kind of conversations, apply that question to those hopefully, okay? So let's go to question. And by the way, you guys are arranged thusly in my window. It's Glenn, Alex, Carl, Jaswinder, and Stacia. So if you don't mind, let's go in that order so that helps me. If you guys don't disappear and then reappear, then that order stays, okay? All right, so Glenn, first question, okay? In these conversations, is focus important? Is it the top? And if it's not the top, what are other items that are more important than focus in these conversations? And hopefully let's keep it to a minute, okay?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's pretty important, but I wouldn't put it at the top. Would I put it at the top? Like, there's just the general word presence, a kind of presence. So it's a little difficult to define, but for me, certainly open-mindedness, a sort of an attitude where we're interested in exploring and learning together, just to have that mindset. That is probably what I would put at the top.
Okay.
Focus can be a good tool to assist that sometimes.
Thank you. So I'm hoping that we have the lengthier discussions later, but I'm hoping that these initial contributions can be 1 minute, okay? And let's try and do that. Alex, is focus important to you?
Focus is important.
So what ranks higher than focus in your set of priorities?
The higher ranking thing for the objective of the group is to focus, and that's, well, there's nothing higher than that, except perhaps I can't think of anything. It's understanding the objectives. If that is clear in each participant's mind, that's it. We've got our objective focused. Over.
Okay, thank you. Carl, I know you didn't take a Saturday, but what about when you conduct meetings?
I'll have to just try to answer the focus thing, because as I said, I'm basically a theoretical practitioner because I haven't gotten a chance to really implement. I'll have a second OD. So let me see.
You want us to come back to you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jaswinder, do you have the question or shall I repeat it?
Okay. Well, I've been thinking about a lot of things recently, and one of the things that came to my mind was the absolute obvious, condescendingly obvious. So yes, focus is important, but prior to focus, we need people to turn up. If they don't turn up, there's no point in focus. So fortunately, we've had lots of people turn up, and we've had focus as well. And focus is more important to the presenter than it is to the presented. And there are reasons for that, which we can go into later. I'm complete.
Thank you. Hey, so I'm going to go a little bit out of order, and I'm not sure yet that Stacy has met every one of us. So I was wondering if we might just interject a little intro section into this. So could each of us just give Stacy 30 to 60 seconds of who we are, where we are, etc., and what we do, and then maybe we'd ask Stacy to do the same. Okay, let me start. Okay, I'm here on Camino Island, as you are, Stacia. And I got here in 2016. I used to live in California for over 30 years. I did graduate high school in Seattle, not too far from here, however. So this is like coming back to the Northwest for me. And I still have a day gig with a software company in Sunnyvale, California. And my daughter's here. She just finished her junior year. She's now going to be a senior next year at Stanwood High School. And I was one of the 2 final authors of the Global Governance Global Challenges collaboration proposal to a nonprofit corporation in Sweden about 3 years ago. And that's what sort of gave rise to this series of conversations. And I'm also a Doug Engelbart disciple wannabe, and I'll describe that at some point if you like. And with that, I'm also a musician of sorts. I used to conduct the children's orchestra and play violin. So there's a woman on the island who plays flute, Linda. I don't know if you know Linda. She and I found each other.
I would so, and please forgive my interruption, I would so love you guys to stick to the focus of your meeting. And Sam, I know that you and I are going to have an opportunity to get to know each other and talk about those things. I'm sure the rest of you, the guys, you know, you all know what each other does. But I am so curious about what your Saturday mornings really are. So if we could focus on that, that would be beautiful for me.
Okay. So would you mind though if we just introduced for 15, 30 seconds each of us and where we are? Because I would like to make sure that people are plugged in, you know?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Glenn, could you quickly?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Glenn and live on a peninsula a little bit outside of Oslo in Norway. I also have some Scottish family. My mother lives there. And I'm very interested in many things, big questions basically, and global futures, deeper philosophical issues, working on lots of ideas, collective intelligence, evolution, all that stuff really fascinates me. So, and we really find these conversations ground to explore some of those things. So, yeah.
Thank you, Glenn. Alex?
I'm in Down Under, Australia, far north Queensland, and I've helped the locals out with their campaigns against the coal miners, so it's Extinction Rebellion and the others. Open.
Thank you, Alex. Carl?
I'm near Washington, D.C. I'm back to school. I'm working on looking at the issues for people with disabilities. Also a big Doug fan of the whole augmenting human intellectual capabilities. So that's what I'm moving back into.
Very nice.
Thank you, Carl. Jaswinder?
Well, if Alex is down under, then I'm up over. I don't know what latitude I'm at. It's pretty high up. Not as high as Norway, though. What do? I retired about a year ago, over a year ago. Coming up to a year and a half, which is good. And I'm just about beginning to enjoy my my retirement, but I'm, I suppose, a jack of most things and master of one or two, which is good enough for me. And I never did get around to finishing my degree or doing a master's or anything like that. And that may well be next on the agenda. If you have any questions, I'm only too pleased to answer at whatever length you want to take the conversation to. I'm complete. Thank you.
Stacy, it's optional if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah. So I live on Camino Island. I have actually since 2005 brought my kids here from the mainland, and they're now graduated and gone and living beautiful lives. I've worked in many fields having to do with human services. I've been a death doula before that term was coined. I think it's a great honor to be with people before their passing. I have a not-for-profit organization called New Day World that has been very quieted for the last few years while I take care of some personal issues and rebuilding my board. What can I tell you? We're in a changing time. And when I founded New Day World and that whole idea of what that meant, I was going through great transition and looking to the future. I had been having dreams of the time that we're in right now, this globally changing time, since I was 12 years old, and saw things from above the earth of pods of people and the connections of how they were made, and that inspired me and my children to found New Day World. So where I'm at right now is to observe. I'm in a place of observing, listening more than speaking, which shocks most people who know me, and seeing what comes next. What comes next? What do people want? Asking people to observe the fact that a great deal of what we are experiencing now is what we have individually or collectively created. If you don't like it, change is happening. That's not the option. The option is, do you want to change it for the better? Do you want it to be worse? So if we can get people to imagine their own personal and global outcome of this time, then we get to find out if we really want to create a better day, or is it just a new day flying in the wind? So that's not only my business focus, but that's my daily focus. That's about what I can tell you.
Thank you, Stacia. Every one of those words and sentences from each of us, I think, is another conversation potentially. So let's do that. And by the way, the invitation is always open. If you'd like to take one of these Saturdays and bring your focus and bring your moderation skills and see what a group of hopefully present and attentive third parties might do to absorb and potentially spread those ideas.
Wonderful.
Okay, so we were just about ready, but I was going to ask Stacia also, when you conduct meetings, and clearly in your position you conduct probably many meetings, how important is focus to you, and what potentially ranks above focus when you actually conduct conversations and meetings?
Well, I do think that focus is important for all participants, but specifically the moderator. However, I do think that there is one thing higher, and it's one thing that I take the first few minutes of each meeting to express and to give people an opportunity to drop all personal agenda. That doesn't mean personal opinion. That doesn't mean interjecting new ideas. But if we cannot, if we're gathering for a specific purpose on a specific subject, and we've got these offshoots of personal agenda, and how will it lift me up? How will this serve me personally? Then I think we've lost the focus, and I think we've lost the intention. So I ask people at the beginning of each meeting, here's the subject. Please focus on that. Eyes closed, eyes open, makes no difference to me. And focus on the intention of this gathering. But then at the end, pardon me, at the end of each meeting, I allow kind of an open field so that people can say, hey, when we were talking about that, this idea came, and we throw all that together. So it's all in stages.
Thank you. Cool. I'll answer the question myself as well. So for me, focus is probably second or third on the list. If you guys are familiar with this notion of pool of meaning, you know, that there's this space between us where memes and ideas and other kind of mental structures could exist. Kyle Patterson, I believe, in his book called Crucial Conversations, calls it this pool of meaning. So if we could add to the pool of meaning and we're each able to drink from it, then that sense of mutual understanding to me is probably paramount. Second is probably some notion that we're moving in some way, in some potential direction, okay? If there's a clear agenda, then hopefully we're, you know, getting better understanding on those agenda topics. And then at the end, probably below, just below focus, is making sure that we understand what we didn't talk about that got brought up, so that we can actually put that on some backlog, and if it's important, we can actually address it at some future time. So
it's almost the same thing.
Yeah, I use, you know, we map these ideas together, okay? So that's my first bing, bing, bing round. So that was the easy round, okay? Let's go to round two. My second question is, and this actually should be easy also, and those of you who did not present are free to skip this question, okay? The second question is, have you rewatched your session? Glenn.
I believe I rewatched some of it, but not the whole thing.
Okay. Alex.
Yes, I watched it. I rewatched all of them, usually.
Thank you. Yes.
I watched several times over.
Okay. Jess Winder.
Not yet.
No. And I'll answer for myself. I'll have to say no because mine was just last Saturday, and I haven't done that yet. I just got it posted a couple. Anyway, so I intend to do so, but mine was just last Saturday. Okay. And the third question: if you could characterize, how much preparation did you do for your particular session on Saturday? And again, this is for the people who did present. Glenn?
Well, there was certainly a few days during the week where I wrote quite a few notes. But I would say the bulk of the preparation was really thinking about questions relating to truth over many years. So that really was the main preparation. There was a little bit of written notes, which sort of more like loose preparation. But I sort of had the concept in mind, so I didn't really need very specific preparation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Alex?
No, I didn't do any preparation at all. I didn't even know what I was going to focus on during the session. But so I was playing it by ear. Absolutely.
Okay. Jaswinder?
Did I prepare for that one? It's something I've been thinking about for a number of years, probably more than 10 years. I did a presentation similar to that one, for which I did prepare immensely, make slides and things and try and do some of the presentations live. That was a live presentation. I think that was 2016 or 2015, somewhere around now. And I've also been thinking about what I said in that presentation thereafter as well, and before. And I came across some evidence by that wonderful demigod science. This very week, somebody was talking about black holes which were formed in the coldness of space rather than from a star explosion. So that does tend to lend to that theory that a lot of people are now coming around to thinking about, is what was there before the Big Bang? There was something definitely there doing things. I'm complete.
Thank you. So anybody who did not make a presentation is welcome to answer this question as well. So when you actually do prepare for sessions like this, how much preparation do you do and what specifically, if you'd like to answer? I'll give it 3 seconds, and if not, I'll go.
When you say like this, do you mean like this using technology? Do you mean like this in terms of just meeting on a collective basis? Because I can tell you, if you haven't figured it out yet, this is my first time in gathering, first time in my history in gathering via computer and technology. So what do? I don't do it yet because this is intimidating for me. Probably because of my lack of technology, you know, my level of technology. But when it comes to a real gathering, how much time in preparation? I don't have a number, but I spend more time in the quiet with it. I spend more time sitting with it, in meditation with it, than I do in actual physical preparation. That's about the best answer I can give.
Okay, thank you. And yes, I didn't mean not the technology part. I just meant when you gather people for the New Day kinds of conversations you probably have. So I was hoping to hear more about that, but I will definitely.
And my interest is about like facilitation methods and stuff. So I would probably be looking to pick a particular one and then probably 6 thinking hats and maybe August 22nd or 29th.
I missed a little bit. What's happening August 22nd or 29th?
I'm saying maybe I could actually do one on the 22nd or 29th of August because that would be in between that would be in my term break.
Oh, okay, all right. Thanks. I got that. So you're booked between now and then. Okay, Good to know. I'm going to answer that myself, okay? I did a session called Teen Congress last Saturday. And I would say that that specific topic had about 2 weeks kind of prior thinking and preparation, but the more general concept of how do we get intergenerational conversations around these topics and how we in particular get the youth and young adults and high school kids involved, to me has been, you know, a theme for at least 11, 12 years, you know, in various different formats, but 3+ years in this particular format, okay? So it all came about because I was almost swearing, I was so enraged at the 500, you know, plus $1 billion that was kind of being siphoned off to Wall Street 2-3 weeks ago. And my daughter heard me and said, you adults, you know, you do all this, all this stuff all the time. Why don't you just let teens run the world? Yes. And that led me to write a blog, which I put up, I shared with most of you here. In case you guys want to check it out, it's at supersymmetry.com. That's my blog site. And where I actually laid out what I thought would be a way to get youth and young adult voices in. So anyway, the preparation was only about 2 or 3 weeks on that specific topic, but the more general thing, which involves collective intelligence and how we share artifacts and how we come up with proposals for the new world, new future, that's been going on since 2008. And I'll describe that at some point too. Most of you know that history in mind. So anyway, that's my response to that question. Okay. Let me go to the next question. And this is the more free-flowing one, okay? And first, it has to be, are you open to feedback on how your session went? Feedback from those of us who attended, okay? And if you are, then I invite each of us to give you that specific feedback, hopefully in a, you know, concise, pithy way, okay? And if you say no, then we'll skip and we'll go to the next person, okay? And this requires that those of us who did attend remember a bit about, you know, your particular session. So anyway, that's going to be up to those of us who did attend. So, if we could, Glenn, are you open to feedback on how your session went? And would you like some feedback?
Of course, I'm open for it. And, you know, if you have some feedback, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a while since the session now, so that's.
Oh wait.
In general, definitely.
Okay, good. Sorry, thanks. Anybody have feedback for Glenn? Okay, so my particular feedback for you, Glenn, is I thought you did maintain focus extremely well. You're actually quite you're quite selective with your words, and you actually choose them carefully, and I think that really helps. You actually complete sentences. You actually, you know, form thoughts, and they flow together. So I thought that was really good. And moreover, you actually take the time to write up summaries of sessions. Mm. And so I think that's a huge valuable service you do in those times that you actually do it. I was curious, however, I would ask you the question, what did you try to bring differently to your moderation session that maybe went unnoticed or was something you particularly thought about?
Wow, I hoped, or what the plan was, that we would collect truths, which all of us believe to be true, like solid truths. And I have a document, but I haven't sort of finished it yet. But that was sort of a plan that we would collect many things that each of us consider to be true, and then from that, maybe that's a basis to begin building on what's possible at some time in the future. So it's sort of the journey from truth into possibility, which is sort of the larger project that I sort of see that as a part of. Yeah, I thought it was successful, but at the same time, obviously, we really just scratched the surface of it. But yeah, that was really the basic idea.
Okay. Thanks. Anybody else with feedback for Glenn? It's
I do have a quick question, Sam. Yeah. Does each person's session run the full 2 hours? Does each person's Saturday session run for the full 2 hours, or is it a portion of that 2 hours?
It usually goes for 60 to 90 minutes. And then the last 15 to 30 minutes, I ask 3 questions, kind of as a retrospective. And that's been the format now for probably the last 2 months.
Wonderful.
Now, everybody has a chance to take more than one session. You know, I think Colin might have had the chance. I know Jaswinder did, because unfortunately Jaswinder had some difficulties the first time, so he took advantage of the second time. So we did offer to others. And by the way, Heiner, I'm sorry I skipped you because your video was off. So if you have anything to participate, I know you're on the bike right now. But if you have anything to contribute at any time, Heiner, please do speak up, because you're not visible on my screen when your video is off. So let me read into your question, Stacy. Are you potentially interested in taking one of these upcoming Saturdays and bringing a?
Oh, I don't know about that yet. We'll see.
Okay, all right.
We'll see.
Just checking. Okay. Don't let technology.
I'm researching different people's formats, you know, because formatting has changed. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay. By the way, these particular sessions that we've been having, as you gathered, have been going on since about September or October of 2017. So more or less everybody here that you're meeting has gotten to know each other over that period. Some of us, you know, not entirely that entire period, but Carl, you know, not the entire 3 years, but I've known Carl since 2008. So that went on before that as well. Okay. Anybody else with feedback for Glenn, optionally? Yes, Alex.
I'm thinking about it if I was doing a that would require preparation. So research.
Sorry, that's the one word. If you were doing a what?
A skills assessment.
Mm.
So I'd do preparation for that. I'd need a week's grace to do research and get some facts together.
Right.
So that what I presented was more like what Glenn was talking about, and focused on truth, and not ad-libbing hearsay and, you know, stuff that is maybe not really factual, not really well researched.
Okay. So sorry, I think there's 2 things that I'm confused about right now. I was checking to see if anybody else had feedback for Glenn, but yeah. I know that you're responding directly to the question yourself. So if you'd like, you can get the feedback for you also. But just to quickly, anybody else have feedback for Glenn? Okay, all right. Alex, thank you for your statement. Anybody else with feedback for Alex?
Yeah, go ahead, Colin. Yeah.
Feedback for Glenn.
Oh, Colin, you're there too.
Yeah. So, sorry that I don't like to use my video all the time, but I've managed to catch up on a few chores, and I definitely enjoy being part of the Saturday meeting. Yeah, for Glenn, I find that it helps for me and I've offered this suggestion before, if we can give an example and try to make an analogy of some sort, because a lot of times I find we're talking about very abstract ideas of what is better, what is good, especially what's possible. And I think his superstructure in a better world is very aligned with our new guest today, Stacy, I think.
Stacia, yes.
So, you know, so I think finding a way to make a narrative out of that, so everybody's basically on the same page, I think, because it's not that people don't agree with what he's saying. It's hard to form a concrete thought, and it's very easy to get into a dreamy state when listening to Glenn speak. So, you know, I think that would be my criticism. Nothing negative, just that something to help support the narrative. If that makes any sense, thanks.
So Colin, may I clarify? Are you talking about Glenn's session in particular, or Glenn's presencing in general over most of these conversations?
I think in general, I think that's Glenn's style, and I know I have some things in my style that I look forward to some criticism as well. But yeah, it's rewatching the videos helps a lot too, I think, and actually knowing what it is that your agenda is, as was mentioned by Stacy, and getting ready for that. Oh, that's very, very important. But once you do go to present, I think when Glenn is presenting, I find that it's almost like a song where you can kind of fill in your own meanings. And I would like him to kind of guide me a little bit more, you know, especially when you're trying to define what's better. Well, you know, what does that actually look like? Just to say we got to find out what's better is one thing, but, you know, these two people working with this scenario, you know, this could be considered better. So to consider the constraints and, you know, try to land it a little bit more out of the philosophy zone, I guess. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is valuable for me, by the way, even if it's more general. It's certainly valuable to just hear that kind of things.
Well, I have to say, if I may say, now I'm really curious and excited to hear the conversation. So much feedback.
Yeah.
To hear more of Glenn's discussions. Is there a place where I can go to watch or listen to that video, to that session?
Yeah, Glenn's session, as are all of these sessions, are posted up on YouTube.
Okay.
And so they're also announced on the Global Challenges Collaboration Facebook group, which I believe you're now a member of, or if you're not, then you're.
I'll look. If I'm not, I will. What date was his session?
I don't have that top of mind. Glenn, what was your date? Do you recall?
I'm not sure. It was one of the earlier sessions after we began this.
I'll find it.
This project.
Yeah, we can find that out.
Yeah,
months ago.
I'll find it for you, then you find it, Stacia, because there are hundreds.
Find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also suggested a while back, in just to quickly on this point, that it could really help if each person could highlight something that they have done, a message, you know, go back and watch what they've said and say, oh, this is something I said that I'd really like to build upon. But if you know, to make these gems, so each person could harvest a few things that they've meant to say and they have said it. I think helping each other find those or make those, so that, you know, we don't have to be in this position where, oh, I think it's someday a long time ago and a big pile of videos. I think harvesting our main points is, to me, something that could be very beneficial. Thank you.
It can work two ways.
Heiner hasn't spoken yet, so I was wondering if we could go Heiner and then you, Alex.
Colin, I think this idea of harvesting, taking our learnings and failings in doing this Zoom events really strikes me. And doing the first on the hot seat with Pammy and a one-on-one. And then we did our deep dives, which we didn't finish. So I always say the deep dive has 3 spaces or 3 events. You have to know who is speaking, out of which background, from where he is, why he is doing that, and what he is doing. And looking into all these preparations, I think it would be very helpful to take all these videos which were done with me, grilling me, investigation, Fleming Funch called it once, put it all together, and then maybe do my 3rd step of the deep dive, going back from the deep ocean's ground or bottom of the sea up again to oxygen, to the sun and to the air and to the light. No, anyway, I am very sorry. I like this conversation. I was in the wrong place. It was too loud. They had a party and the Wi-Fi is not working. But so I escaped, and I'm now here with my telephone box, where we do community exercises with old and new and media. So greetings to the round. I'm in I'm Heiner in Berlin.
Yes. So Heiner, Stacia, meet each other hopefully. And by the way, Colin is in Nova Scotia. Sorry, I didn't see Colin early enough for him to introduce himself.
You
Yeah,
said
that's
he's in Oslo?
no, New Brunswick.
New Brunswick. Okay.
Cool. So I think we're all in different locations, except for you and I, Stacia.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So anybody with feedback for Alex? We were talking with Glenn, but now it's Alex's turn for feedback. So I'll give you a little one, Alex. At times, I lose focus sometimes when you interject, typically with something that's related, but very brief, very concise, but peripherally related. So I find that that sometimes keeps me from focusing on the topic. And I'm hoping that that's something you can take positively, because I do think they're connected, but I'm not sure at times how they're supporting the focus at the time.
I say, yeah, a little feedback for Alex. I mean, I resonate a lot with what Alex talks about. We obviously share this interest in this really big picture idea of some kind of larger global system that enhances collective intelligence and which is connected to local areas. And that's sort of, hello, Kayla. And yeah, so we're doing a little feedback round. And so with Alex, yeah, it's like he's describing this really huge vision some years into the future. At the same time, it sounds really simple and common sense. And but at the same time, there's many details that aren't mentioned. It's sort of a very, bird's eye view sometimes. But obviously, it's certainly a kind of container within which all of the rest of our ideas could be neatly placed, which is obviously the kind of super systems I'm very interested in too. So yeah, so I love that. And apart from that, Alex is really good at saying short things, and he's quite, keeps it specific, and usually, or it's quite relevant, and it's from the heart. He also says some really wonderfully funny things sometimes too, and definitely a quality. So yeah, but concerning that session in particular, I mean, it was very natural. He just said, ask me questions. We asked him questions and we talked about it, and I felt that worked really well because, I mean, we were going into, what is his great passion, and then often things won't go too wrong. So yeah, a few things.
Some of my injections that lose focus is based on the fact that I'm already looking at the thing we're focusing on, and so I'm trying to move the camera and take a wider picture, or move it, zooming out, sort of thing. Anyway, thanks for the feedback. It's interesting.
Thanks for being open to it, Alex. Hey, Kayla, welcome. What we're doing here is a little bit of a retrospective on the last 2-3 months of Focused Saturdays. So just to bring you quickly up to speed, I was going around asking each person the following questions, and we've gone through the following. Is focus important? And if so, what do you prioritize even above focus when you actually conduct meetings? Second, have you rewatched your session? Third, what preparation did you do to bring that focus to your topic? And we're currently in a feedback round of, are you open to feedback on how your session went? And we're in that discussion now. We've gone through Glenn, we've gone through Alex, and we're about to go through others. So if you have any of that on your session, please do join. And we have a few people, I think Carl and Stacia and Heiner probably are ones here who didn't take a particular Saturday, but are still helping us with this retrospective. And Stacia is a neighbor, although we haven't physically met yet, here on Camano Island. And Stacia, Kayla is actually in what, San Diego area? Is that right? Or someplace down south? Orange County, Orange County, California.
No, not Orange County.
No, what?
Ventura County.
Oh, Ventura.
Yeah, so it's an hour and a half north of LA.
North.
Okay, all right.
Nice to meet you, Kayla.
Nice to meet you as well.
Mm-hmm. Kayla did a session here a few Saturdays ago on the Tanaloa dialogues, Fijian tradition. Okay, good. So, anybody else with feedback for Alex before we move on to our next moderator? Okay, speak up or we will move now to, okay, I think my squares, my rectangles have rearranged themselves. So for now, it's Jaswinder. So question, Jaswinder. Is there anything in particular you felt you brought to your moderation that we may have missed?
Not sure I brought anything new other than that I was asked at the beginning how I wanted to do the presentation, and would I allow interruptions and that sort of thing, and I said yes, we'll have an open sort of session where we can just flow with it and see how far we get and where we get. Nothing much of muchness there, and I think we did fairly well. We got through the subject matter. We had some questions about the subject matter and discussed them. And hopefully we'll have another session and this time go deeper. And another session and go deeper still. It's not something that's going to be solved in just one session.
Okay.
Or even understood in one session, incomplete.
Are you open to feedback from others on your session?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have feedback for Jaswinder on his session? I have to be mindful that there are people that I do not see.
I have one, but maybe others wanna.
Yeah. Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to keep it brief, which is not so easy for me always. But yeah, I absolutely love that session. I mean, because it really went deeper into this issue of truth, as I understood it, and this issue, how could everything begin? It's just unbelievably fascinating for me. So. Yeah, and it was really lively and energetic, and really felt that we challenged ourselves towards understanding things better. So it was time just flew past. So yeah, definitely one of my favorite sessions.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I'll give you a little bit. Oh, Kayla, go ahead.
Mine's very brief. I like the way it flowed a lot. There was a lot to learn, and I felt like a lot of people contributed to the session as well. So I'm complete.
No. Okay, so I'm gonna have to tell you that Jaswinder, I'm always kind of confused when this topic comes up, because one of the questions you asked was what happened before the Big Bang. And I don't even know how to answer that question, you know? There are, I guess, philosophical and spiritual ways to approach it, which I think did get discussed in the meeting. And from a scientific standpoint, there's actually perhaps a little, but mostly not, any method that we have to look, you know, before the Big Bang. So for me, it's actually a very curious question about how we go about understanding that. But it's a fascinating topic, and I do think that it's one that unfortunately for me relies more on this intuition or spiritual side of knowing, quote unquote, versus the science side of knowing. And so that's why I think I'm very open, but not yet very well grounded on that topic.
And
Sorry, you're on mute, Jaswinder.
And the rest of the moderation and the flow?
I don't
How-
remember.
how-
Anybody else with feedback for Jaswinder?
Yeah, I could. I'm trying to think about how that went, and I'm sure I got my opinion in there, but I feel that the space that Jaswinder, the thing Jaswinder brings to the space is something that I don't easily accept, or it's not natural to me, I should say, with spiritual type of things. Now, the question of, the philosophical questions, they're fun to grapple with, but when we start getting into we seem to have a difficulty discussing things, and this would be something that I would like to know more about, how to have better disagreements or how to move forward better in conversations. So it's interesting because Jazz is very friendly and open to explain, but at the same time, we still don't seem to get going on a comfortable journey around some topics. So I guess to stand back from that, I could say in this space, just give Jaswinder whatever he wants to say. It doesn't mean that I agree with it. And if it's something that is that I'm actually working with and Jaswinder should help me, then at that time, maybe we could engage on that or talk about these. But I find, it's difficult to know which characteristic or which specialty Jazz is working on. And if it's not something that's really any of my specialty, then I should let him be able to work that out without being questioning all the time. Like, how do you know that's true? Or, because he may be going in a different direction, and I'm using more of a scientific mind. So to know, maybe there could be like a color in the background, and when it's, a certain aura, that's Jazz's space or a spiritual space. And then when it changes back to, a different color, now it's more of an engineering space. And I see Sam looking queer at that, but I'm thinking the difference between spirituality thinking and engineering thinking are two different mindsets, and to flip from one to the other is difficult. And I tend to be more analytical. So yeah, I guess my feedback is for Jazz, and I take a little time in saying this is because, we've had a few tit for tats during the show, and I've been trying to find a way to side rail it or to figure out how we could better discuss these things without taking up all the time on Saturday when we have a disagreement about these different spaces and specialties. So it's a definitely an interesting topic. I'll leave it there. So my suggestion with Jazz is how to deal with people like me. I don't know.
Alex, may I offer something quickly before you go? The proposal is, as Colin has asked before, is for us to set up a particular Saturday session to address this topic. There's a little bit of persistent tension on this one. So I'm wondering if you guys are open to that. And by that I mean specifically Jaswinder and Colin.
Yep. Why not?
Okay, I hear a yes from Jaswinder. Colin?
Yeah, and yeah, it sounds like something that's definitely worth doing. I think we wrote down 3 or 4 conversations that might be worth having with different people, like side conversations that we could bring back to the main forum and share as well. Okay.
So just to complete that thread, could we on the Facebook Messenger group at least bulletize 1 or 2 or 3 themes for that conversation, and then we can schedule it? I mean, potentially even as early as next Saturday. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Colin, you okay with that?
Yeah, sure. And I think it's a work in progress, and that's why I would like to have some side chats on it before I wanted to do it during a Saturday show, because I might, we've already done that 3 or 4 times and it doesn't really work.
We haven't focused an entire show, quote unquote, or session on that one topic between the 2 of you, though.
No, that's definitely true, but I'm saying just when the topic comes up, it derails the show. So it kind of takes.
What I'm saying, let's do this one focused session.
Yeah, derail the complete show. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
No, bring focus to it is what I'm saying.
Okay, well, anything you want, Sam, that's fine. I go with what you want. That's fine.
Yeah, Sam, actually,
Yeah, Carl, go ahead. Sorry, wait,
Yeah.
Alex, hand up first.
I just wanted to say in regard to Jess Winder, the fact that the universe had a beginning or didn't have a beginning is eternal, or there was nothing here before the universe. Because I was studying the strong nuclear force, you know, and the expansion, the inflationary expansion, and stuff like that. And it occurred to me suddenly that if you can't blind them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit, and one way or the other, you get through the conversation. Over.
Okay, Alex, that to me, that sounded more like going back to the topic rather than looking at the retrospective aspect of this. So could we park that for the next conversation?
Yep.
Thank you. Carl, you had your hand up.
yeah, actually, that kind of topic where looking at the process is actually something that could fit right into what I wanted to do with facilitating with the 6 thinking hats method. So.
Okay, so I'm hearing some energy around this one. How about let's spend the last 5 minutes of today's session just planning for that conversation, because I hear that several of you have suggestions on how that should go.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have like a breakout room on something like that. That's kind of what I've been thinking, because I think there's a lot of ideas how we might be able to approach this smarter than just let's boom into it, you know, check-ins and, you know, how do you feel about your spirituality and why do you have a problem with this? It's like, you know, we really like this in preparation.
Are we talking about the Colin and Jess Winder now, or are we talking about Carl's
No. We're trying
thinking
to park
hats ideas?
it for future conversation. Okay? So I'm trying to park it till at least the 5 minutes of this session to plan for that future session, but I'd still like to go on with the retrospective in its current format, if that's okay. Okay, so now.
That's just one branch on the map. I'm curious if Carl's actually capturing this like he said he was, because I've done that quite a bit. I tend to capture bigger picture things these days, but that would be another branch right there where we're talking about side conversations, and the more focused the show is, the easier it is to map. So I think you even have a chance to map this one because Sam's steering quite well. But a lot of the shows, it's very hard to map because they're random, and that's kind of why we got into this whole focus thing, I think.
Yeah, I am capturing stuff, although I had to drop off because of the tech issue there. But yeah, that session that I could do in August could really be tying this stuff together, and we can have some conversations in between.
Okay. So as an aside, for those who don't know Colin and Carl real well, they're two of the most ardent practitioners of conversation and dialogue mapping. And Colin uses a tool called Coggle, and Carl and I, although I'm less prolific than Carl is, use a product called The Brain. And so Colin shares his from time to time, and I've been working with Carl every Wednesday on The Brain related activities. So that's a little bit of background for that aside. Okay, so to continue, anyone else with feedback for Jaswinder and his session? Going once. Yes, Alex.
Nothing here.
Okay, next would be in my arrangement here. Actually, Colin, you're invisible, so sometimes you're not next in line for me when I look around. Would you like to have a shot at this? Because I think we even missed you for most of the early questions. There you are.
What are you looking for?
Well, okay, so the questions that I'm not sure when you joined, okay? Questions are, when you're moderating, is focus important to you? And if so, and if not, what is more important than focus, okay? 2, have you rewatched your session? Number 3, what did you do to prepare? If you could, characterize that for us. And then this current question that's on our round is, what do you think you brought to your moderation that we might have missed, that was unique to your practice? And are you open to feedback on your particular session? So those are the 5 or 6 questions that we've stacked through before I became aware that you're here.
Right. Okay. Yeah, in reverse order, I guess I'm open to feedback, of course. I think number 2, I have gone and downloaded the video, and I'm in the process of going over it. I think I felt it was unfinished, as I said at the time, because I think it would take like 2 sessions. Maybe if I was more ready and prepared, I could do like a 15-minute intro. That could have been like the first show. And then the second one might have been actually collaborating or doing something, because it was very much a lecture. So, but it was meant to try to bring us into a mind space of the different maps that I do and why they're made in Coggle as opposed to the brain. And just also general feedback, what people have understood from what I have done, because it hasn't been completely clear. And of course, not any one of us is the focus. So unless you kind of join up with somebody, it's kind of hard to get into the nitty gritty of what they're doing. So yeah, I think it could have took a second show to actually get some progress made. That was one thing. And the first question was focus. Yeah, I think there's different kinds of contexts which have different types of formats, which sort of bring a kind of a focus to the space that you're in. So the people that are there, what the topic is. I'm envisioning a different space for talking about the religion stuff than the normal Saturday show, for example. At least preparing for it differently than I have in the past. I'm also thinking about, in retrospective of the day that I spoke about the maps, how could have I done that better? So I'm in that retrospective mode of trying to condense to the actual essence of what it is I'm trying to find out in the journey of this. And as an aside, as you've started with the Teen Congress, I see that as a new sprout, and it would be interesting to put an analogy towards the journey map of where you actually are right now in that process, because I see that as a one-to-one. You can think of it as an kind of a retrospective agile map. You can zoom into any one point, and you could go, see what what activities are happening there. So it's and I think I expressed it wasn't a complicated thing. It's done with Coggle and crayons to keep it simple, so that you can actually visualize where you are in your journey or quest or whatever it is you're doing, so that you can align with other people more easily. So it's kind of like a profile idea, but it's a profile in action. So, and it has all the little pieces that we discussed in the barn raising: dynamic knowledge repository, conversation mapping, and different little loops where you come into the conversations and leave the conversation. So yeah, it'd be interesting. So that's kind of, I'm definitely into having a retrospective, but I really don't know where it's going, because it's a work in progress, and any one thing you kind of chew off at the GCC is a lot of work, as we've identified. So that's why it'd be nice to have people facilitate finding their own gems, because that could help, build these journey maps, because I think they're going to be very visual.
Okay, so I think you said it before, but let me just reconfirm. Are you open to feedback on your session?
Yeah, that was the first question.
Okay, good. Anyone with feedback for Colin? Yeah, Alex. I'm sorry, Glenn.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think I'll just sort of say something about what I generally see. It seems that Colin's looking at the space of the journeys of different people. So he's interested in where are they on their journey, and understanding is very important for Colin. Understanding within the context, and also that then comes into the different, projects and meetings and things that different people do when they're on those journeys. So it seems like he's then looking into or sort of exploring the space of how could this be visually represented, and then this big idea of profiles, which as far as I can tell is an emergent idea in the field. It's like one of these really big ideas that many people are very interested in. Collins clearly also, moving in that direction of sort of and then he's focused on the journey aspect of that, or I mean, there's many ways of describing it, obviously, but that's sort of the general thing that I see him going into. And yeah, concerning his session, yeah, it also felt that it sort of touched the surface of it a little bit, but yeah, I also kind of felt it wasn't really completed. I mean, it's a work in progress, obviously. I mean, because it's a very big thing, and it's related to software as well, because as we know, he's in the software industry, and so it's a very big thing about sort of how we informationally represent the field and the people and the journeys they're on. So, yeah, I'll leave it.
Thanks, Glenn. Hey, Alex, you're next.
Yes, I was looking at the mapping software that Colin uses, and it's an incredible tool to use. The way Colin's using it to link and compare all these different activities that are happening online and the different teams and groups that are focusing on different subjects according to their various values. And what happened to me was that the fact that we can use that kind of tool to narrow the focus allows us to all have the primary objective in our minds. And that's where I'd love to see focus directed. There could be some sprout or some piece of software or some app that develops as a result of our collaboration that helps us establish a primary directive. Over.
Thanks, Alex. Others?
Yeah, I got.
Okay, Carl.
Yeah, I can give like just a quick demo, just literally just show you what I've been capturing.
Can you make it 15 to 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. You're going to share your screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So you should be able to see it.
Yeah. You've got Glenn twice, by the way.
Are you seeing it?
Yeah, and you've got Glenn and just twice.
Right. Yeah. Glenn and answering the first question, and actually we can drag over and connect to Glenn. And then that's the overall question there. So
are you capturing responses as well, or just the
I started to. I'd have to go back, and well, actually that's something that I think let's see, I think let's see. Oh, let's see.
May I interject a question? The end purpose of this mapping is what exactly? How is this tool useful to you?
Carl, you want to give that a shot? I have my response to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I pretty much use it for everything. I'm a doctoral student right now, so that's building out how I'm using it as a student, and actually how it can be used to support people with disabilities is what one of my research projects can be.
So,
and example where I did capture Alex's answer to that question. So that's,
Mm-hmm.
and so.
Can you, yeah, so there is another view that is actually the document or notes view that gives you the content of each node. So right now, if you're only seeing the node, you're not actually seeing the content of it. But we can actually do a tutorial on the brain at some other point as well. But let me also just, since we're on the topic, let me answer your question and then go back to the retrospective. And that is, I actually use the brain and other tools like Workflowy and Google Docs and others in a different mode. I actually find it difficult to use them in the actual real-time session. In real-time session, it's as much as I can do to just take notes in a linear way, okay? But I do go back. So if it's important enough to really review and actually mine it and actually get the memes and the key ideas out of it, then I will map it into something like the brain or to Workflowy. And there it's useful to me because then I can see, okay, this actually was mentioned in another session like 6 weeks ago, and I can actually connect those together. And it's also possible to connect different speakers and different responders to each of those ideas. And then I know where the energy is around that particular topic. And that, you know, goes for a number of things going back several years. And that's how I find it useful. And it's also useful for me because then the text is searchable. So if I actually search for, let's say, climate, you know, then I can find which of our sessions discuss climate, and I can go to that particular session of the video and actually just, you know, re-engage with that particular session of the conversation. All of that does take work though, so it doesn't always happen. But for the important things that I really want to go back to, yes, it does happen. Okay, so I'm not sure that's a complete answer for you, but that's the first quick answer that came up while we're in flow, okay? All right, yeah, Carl, you had something else?
Yeah, well, both of, with how Doug Engelbart influenced both of us, what I'm envisioning is that like what we're doing is the brain networked improvement community, whatever tool Colin is using, we can have a community building around that. And then we got the process side of it, and then leveraging the community things, and then how can we connect the technology.
There's so much more to say on that topic that that's another whole series of conversations, but let's keep going. I believe we were on Jaswinder. So are we still collecting feedback for Jaswinder, or anyone else with feedback for Jaswinder? Oh, no, wait. It was Colin, right? It was Colin.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right.
My brain is, see, that's why I need artifacts. All right, anybody else with feedback for Colin? I have some. So Colin, I think I've mentioned before, but your session felt like a lecture to me. So it felt more like a presentation and a broadcast than a collaborative session. So I was wondering whether or not that came across the first time. And so I was wondering, you know, since you were presenting the brain and you were showing what was on, sorry, not the brain, your Coggle map, it seemed like what you wanted us to know was that everything was being captured in the Coggle map, but I didn't know what was the next step. I mean, for me, part of the feedback that I gave you was, I would love to collaborate with you on that Coggle map, but it's not read-write by multiple people, or at least it's not right now set up to be read-write by multiple people. So if it were collaborative and if we could co-create that together, I'd have a much different feel for it. But right now it's like, okay, I can see it, and then, you know, every few weeks go by and then I see it again, and there's not much I can do to influence it. So I don't know how you want feedback on it, because for me to give you that feedback and then you enter it and then you show it back, that takes, you know, quite a long time, and it's not at the speed of thought. And if it doesn't work at the speed of thought, then collaboration is difficult for me. So that's my piece of feedback. Over. Yeah, Alex, you had something? No? Okay, anyone else with feedback for Colin? Colin just disappeared.
I've got some more feedback for Colin.
What?
I've got a little bit more for Colin about the format for the...
Wait, he just dropped out. Colin, are you back? Colin, are you back?
Seems like he's connecting.
Yeah, I don't think he's back yet.
He dropped out.
Okay, so his mic is off. Okay, Colin. I don't know how much of my feedback you heard, but Alex had some for you.
I was going to ask if we could move on to Heinz.
Actually, I don't see Heiner anymore. Oh, there he is.
There's Heiner.
Heiner!
No, I'm not really here. I like the flow of the conversation and the group. I cannot go into any of these sessions, which I didn't attended to before in full. So please keep me in the shadow, but I'm here and I'm listening.
Heiner, question while you're here, would you like to take an upcoming Saturday session and present a focus topic and your moderation skills?
Not so much in the moderation skills, but really on the third step of the deep dive on where to go.
So would you like to take a session?
Which means, and maybe in 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. I was going to offer you the one in 2 weeks from now because it looks like next week we already have a topic.
I need to check my schedule and I'm in something else, but I heard my name, so I bumped in. Let's talk about in 2 weeks and we can do it one-on-one.
Okay.
So let's talk and please continue.
Deal.
I was going to suggest that I mentioned was the topics about where we want to go. And that reminded me of the Talanoa session when we asked, where are we, where do we want to go, and how do we want to get there? It's a popular conversation to have, and one that is fruitful, I believe, on many occasions, because people bring stuff we haven't listened to before. Over.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so as we did with Colin, unless there's more feedback for Colin, I'd like to invite another Kayla, because I know you did come, I think, after we started. I think you came at about 50 minutes after. So I wanted to see if those questions made sense to you and whether you'd like to recap your thinking on your session and then optionally get some feedback.
Sure. So the first question was, is focus important to me? And yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, I mean, you could go forever and on and on and on. So it's important to focus on one topic and simplify it. The second question you had is, did I watch myself? No, I don't watch myself. I should. It's dumb, but I don't. So maybe I should. I don't know. What was the third question again?
Sorry, I'm typing, so I put myself on mute, and it takes a while for me to get back off mute. Okay, so the third question was, what did you do to prepare? And why don't you couple that with what did you feel you brought uniquely that you were, really interested in bringing to your moderation of that session? And then next would be, are you open to feedback on your session?
Okay, so what did I do to prepare? I invited as many people as I could, as many diverse people as I could. I also went over and over and over again the rules of the Talanoa, I think, to the point where it just kind of, I don't know, got stuck in my brain. I also felt like mine was kind of easy because I'd been doing it over and over. And, I mean, it's just a different way of sharing, really. It's a different way of listening. I really hope that people had the opportunity to use that model to be able to move forward if they do want to focus on a topic. It's also a good idea for people also to just listen to other people's styles of communication and get to the root of their styles of communication. So I kind of felt like I cheated a little because I used something that I've done forever. but it was nice to be able to introduce it to this group here.
Thank you. Are you open to feedback?
Oh yeah, absolutely, please.
Okay, cool. Anyone with feedback for Kayla on her session on the Talanoa dialogue?
Glenn's first.
Glenn and Alex?
Well, I wasn't there, but I did see the beginning of it on video. So yeah, I mean, I really like that structure, and I think, as Alex mentioned, it's some of these basic questions that keep returning. They're sort of always relevant. So I'll just leave it at that because I didn't see the whole session. I saw the beginning, but I liked very much what I saw.
Actually curious, did you like it enough to go back and finish watching that session?
Yes, perhaps. Yeah, I saw it lasted like 3 hours. So yeah, I was at work at the time. So, but yeah, I'm curious about what happened.
Wow.
It's clearly a
reference to
long session.
NSFW.
What'd you say?
GCC is NSFW now.
Huh?
NSFW is I guess one of these colloquialisms, not safe for work.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Sorry about that. I interrupted you. My apologies.
I was finished. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Alex, did you have feedback for Kayla? Just a thumbs up? Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I've enjoyed the sessions, and it's reminded me a lot of my homeland because I've been away from many decades, and it was that was very good. That was heartwarming anyway. Over.
Okay, anybody else with feedback for Kayla? I have 3 points. I don't think any of them were at all related to your moderation of it, but it was just how it landed for me. Okay, number one, the chance to tell stories I think was really good. The chance to hear everybody's story and go around. So that I'm probably surmising is one of the core aspects you're bringing for Tanaloa. The second is that part of it mapped to something which in business they call gap analysis. And anytime you have a present and a future and a path, that kind of maps to some of those 3 questions that you have. And it comes in a number of different forms. And I was introduced to it using this term gap analysis. But the story aspect of it is definitely a crucial key component that is kind of missing in business, it seems to me.
Mm-hmm.
The third piece, and this is again not a reflection on you, but it was just more a reflection on our community here, is it was about racism, but we didn't have any Black Americans on the session.
Wow.
And I thought that was something that we might want to do again if we're all willing to, because we didn't hear their voice or any one of their voices. I did invite some, but I don't think any did attend. So that was curious. So we talked each from our own perspectives. And so I still feel that it's a topic which is obviously a multi-conversation topic, probably decades topic. But it's good to have another take at it. And I thank you for bringing that. Anybody else with feedback for Kayla? Okay, cool. Let's see. Have we gone through everybody? Just Winner, Kayla, Alex, Colin, Glenn, Just Winner. Oh, me. Okay, we haven't done me yet. Anybody with feedback for me? I'm open to focus. Wait, before we go on to that, Colin just wrote bullying in the chat transcript. Is that something you want to bring up now, or is that something you want to park, Colin?
Any kind.
I don't know. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah. No, I wrote that down because I'm thinking that bullying is the overarching term when it comes to racism or bigotry or just meanness, standing in somebody's way because you think you know better than they do. So I think bullying is the number one term. So this would be racial bullying. So I think, you know, because I think if people can avoid bullying and lying, it'd be a much better world. That's a couple of rules. And the other rule I like is don't, just to throw it in there, Vinay Gupta, I watched one of his interesting videos. I put it on the map, and he was talking about not doing anything that harms the future of our children should be heavily considered in business. Anyway, it's hard to make rules of what is better, really hard. So anyway, yeah, so bullying, I think, is in that realm of super topics. And what is better is also in the realm of super topics.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
We've got quite a collection of loaded terms here that are on the backlog. Okay.
I've got a comment for Kayla. That is the background of this Black Lives Matter issue was important to me. It was something that resonated, because when I hear black people say white people are racist, I listen to that and I know it's true, because I've been in prison and I've seen the disparity, and it gives me thought, it gives me cause for reflection to think about what I can do about that, how I live my life when I encounter people of other races. It doesn't have to be black people. Racism can extend to people of other creeds, colours and religions. So it's political as well. But you know, it's something that when you know it's true, then you can face it and rectify it and do something about it. But until you admit it, you're in denial, like most racist people are. Over.
Agreed.
Thanks, Alex. Anybody else with feedback for Kayla? Going once. Okay, I believe I'm the last, unless someone else reminds me who we skipped. So my session was just last week. It's relatively fresh, although I didn't go back and rewatch it. So I'm very open to feedback. And I've already mentioned it was about Teen Congress for those of you that were not present at that session. So I'm open to feedback. Anyone with feedback for me?
Sam, I will go back and watch every one of these this week.
Wow.
But you're talking about Teen Congress in terms of involving young people. And that's my gig.
Wow.
That's my deal. That's what I've been doing for decades. I co-founded Children's Day Celebration in Washington State in 98, 99. And what I thought was very interesting is I did have some, I would call probably high power people within the community, adults within the community that wanted to join in on creating Children's Day organization or Children's Day celebration. And I can't tell you how many different negative reactions that I got when I told them no. And the reason I told them no is because I wanted this to be created by older children for the younger children. So it was really the teens, and we had a teen advisory committee that really designed and ran the entire weekend of celebration to celebrate Children's Day, or to celebrate children. So impressed. And the way I raised my own children, I have two, is look, I'm just the vessel by which you arrived here. You already came with your mission. You came with your way. So let me guide you at times and facilitate you toward the full expression of who you are. And when I saw how that amplified their love, their confidence, their action in this world, I thought, this is gold. This takes my responsibility as a parent and my freedom as a parent to a whole new level. And I'm going to practice that throughout my lifetime. And I have to say, I have a beautiful relationship with many, many young people, whether it be elementary school age, all the way up to now. You know, they're all in their 30-somethings. Yes, I would love to personally talk with you about some of that. But I really think if some of us as adults, and this actually goes to what Colin was saying about bullying, we as adults think that because we have more time, and this is a generalization, because we have more time walking this earth, that therefore we have more wisdom. And I think that that is an ego-based thinking process. We have brought some pretty amazing beings to this planet just by asking, can we have better? Can we have more? This is their world. I would like to see more of us take the stance that we are here to support them in their wisdom, in what they want their world to be, and let that flow through the coming generations. Because on many levels, those of us who are over 30, 40, or 50, we think that we know. And yes, we do know on many levels what we know. But these new generations that are coming in are already they already have the hard drive. They are already uploaded with all of the information that they need to create peace, to create a world perhaps without the confinements of religion, the confinements of racism. They came here looking for peace and wanting to spread that to us. So a lot of times when I go into, whether it's an organization or a meeting, whatever, I just like the adults to step back, maybe facilitate the focus in the process, but by God, let them do what they came here to do. Perhaps what we came here to do was to grow to an age where we could be in support of them, not just to push our agendas. So because I've operated most organizations and businesses, et cetera, that way, I would like to offer whatever I can to you, and maybe work together on some of those things.
That would be fascinating, because I think they're very closely related. I don't yet know how much identical they are, because what I wanted to do was give them a voice that would actually balance the cacophony of stupidity coming out of Washington, D.C.
Indeed.
And by creating something that was almost a mirror of what we have as a legislature, either 435 kids or 535 kids, depending how we structure it. And yes, my point was to give them this voice and let them then come up with what they would advise the rest of the country to do on certain very important topics, like universal basic income, like taxation, like money and currency and fiat, currency, like racism, like, work for income, like, homelessness. I would like them to say, Washington, we don't have authority, but this is what we would recommend. And immediately, I think if we could make this happen, that versus the stupidity coming out of Washington would be an A-B comparison right there. And that would be very powerful. The other notion I had was, if more than 435 kids sign up, I'd like to set up multiples of these. And they can decide themselves how they want to conduct themselves. I just want to give them a platform for interaction and recording what's going on, and then to be able to report what they do. and give that a voice. And then, contact, hey, ABC, hey, NPR, hey, CBS, hey, CNN. This is what we see coming out of this. Compare it with that crap that's coming out of Washington.
Yeah.
What do you think? Anyway, that's my key notion in Teen Congress. And I was, by the way, I know I'm digressing here, but you were so enthusiastic that I just wanted to respond to that. That is that when my daughter and I had this conversation, I immediately went to GoDaddy and checked out teencongress.com, and lo and behold, it was available. So I bought it. I would have thought that it would have been, snapped up already, but nobody else has really thought that. So I snapped it up, and, I've been writing notes. I wrote up a 2 or 3 page blog on this 2 or 3 weeks ago. So if you went to supersymmetry.com, you'll probably find it. Anyway.
Well, this is powerful stuff. This is powerful stuff, what you're talking about. If you really make this work, this could be really big. Yeah.
I want to. And I think that, I agree with you. I don't want to be imposing what I think. I want to be just enabling them.
Yes.
So they can voice what they think. Okay?
So they can form a vision, right? Of what world would they want? If you really
with the new generations.
What's your vision? What
anyway,
that would be really.
Sorry, I'm detracting from the retrospective here. I'm just going back to the topic. But sorry for letting me do that. Alex, you had your hand up.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, the possibility.
I've had the raised hand for.
Sorry, Carl.
Yeah, because I posted a bunch of things in the chat. I'm involved in so many things, but there's a whole issue like, should you share things? Should Stacia even look at what I've done before she presents? Because or how would that impact if she looks at that stuff? So I just want to toss that idea out too, because in the time, because it's.
Okay, thanks, Carl. I'll leave that to Stacia to decide.
Yes, I really am. I don't say something and then not do a thing. So I will go back and frankly spend a lot of time. I have no intention, just so you know, to present anything for quite some time. My plate is quite full. But yes, Colin, Alex, Kayla, all of you, I will go back and see all of these recorded sessions for my own research, for my own information, and to basically just get to know you a bit.
You don't know how much you bit off. Each of these sessions is 2+ hours.
Hey, I got nothing but time. I can listen.
Okay.
But the possibilities are incredible with the kind of technology that's becoming freely available. Even the Google Cloud private networks on Google Cloud servers cost you only a few cents a month, and you can host. You can allow your users, your sub-tribe people to all host their own web servers on that virtual network. So that's amazing stuff for the youth. If the youth helping youth, if they let them design something for the younger people, like Sam suggests, I think it's a super duper idea. And we just sit in the background as guidance and mentors, if they're required.
Well, I'm going to say that I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm not exactly sure what the course of the future is going to be, but I'm coming to you folks for some of the help with these technological things. I designed a gaming system quite some time ago in my head, never at my hands, about how we can get young people from around the world who are already connected on a certain web to communicate with one another. But I did not have the support or the knowledge as to how to truly make that a reality. But now everywhere I go, and it's not very many places because I still am quarantined quite a bit, everywhere I go, what I hear is the deep, profound pain and beauty of these young people in every age group saying, no one is hearing us. So this is why we've amplified our action, understanding that some of this is excuses for radical behavior, but they don't know how to get our attention. They don't feel validated in what they have to say. they're afraid to speak their minds because for sure some big white guy is going to shut them down. They have so much to say. They have so much to contribute. I've been writing a book for several years called My Children, My Teachers, because mine have been my greatest teachers. So yes, to be able to come to you who know stuff about technology to facilitate these young people being able to communicate with one another and with us, to bring to us the messages that they came here with, is a profound change for the globe, not just for this country. And I will get off my soapbox, but you touched a passion. So watch out.
I'm really glad to hear that. I am still cognizant that, you know, I'd like to get some feedback, but, you know, this energy that's around this topic, I think is really exciting to me. And it's, for me, a culmination of a lot of different things pulled into something that's very concrete, okay? Because a lot of the general ideas about sharing knowledge, about collective intelligence, about, you know, being able to create artifacts, about taking action, about group decision making, about why teams succeed, about how scalability happens, all these things, you know, I've been thinking about for quite a bit of time. But if I now coalesce it all in this very focused idea called Teen Congress, now all of those things, you know, can hopefully enable that and not prescribe how it happens, but enable it. That's where I'm interested right now. By the way, 6 other projects I'd like to do as well, you know, on top of that.
No doubt.
Okay, so I'm still, almost fell over here, looking for feedback on how the session went. Did it achieve focus? Did we co-create? All those questions. And then if that round is over, then I'd like to go to the next stage. Kayla.
Yes, as you guys are witnessing, it was a very exciting topic. You know what I'd like to see, and I know you have the capability of doing it, is what I'd like to see from everybody else too, is utilize your screen, just like what Carl was doing. Just because I would have loved to have a little bit of a background on your blog, Sam. I would have loved to read that prior to this session, just so I have like an idea visually of what you were thinking. And I do see that you co-created and that we're still co-creating. And with that, if you had some type of other topics to go off of that some of us can own, you know, I'm one of those people that, please throw something at my plate, you know. I'd love to assist you in this as well. So those are the only aspects. I mean, the beginning, preparing for it, I know you had an idea, and I don't know if that was what you were achieving, just an idea and brainstorming with everybody here. And then at the end, just kind of putting it somewhere, assigning things, if you will. So that's my only feedback. But other than that, it was a great topic. It was focused well. I mean, we utilized the time nicely. And yeah, I'm complete.
Okay, so thank you. For a few seconds here, I'm going to go to this, where is it? Yeah, here it is. So the blog is at this URL called supersymmetry.com, and then there's the URL right there. But if you go to supersymmetry.com, the very first blog that's still there is this one about Teen Congress. So I talked about why, and so I talked about Ronnie bringing up this idea. It also pissed me off that a few years ago, $780 billion was given to failed business models just to quote unquote, you know, save them. But I think, you know, bad business models in capitalism were supposed to go away, you know? And so we clearly do not have a capitalism right now. So I go into how we structured Teen Congress with 435 kids around the country. And hopefully this is where we could use, you know, one model, but there's other models here as well. And then I go into talking about how do we do this, you know, possible topics. See here, I recommend the kids not get any outside adult help unless they request it directly, and I capitalize that. And then talk about sponsor models, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, just to give you that little sense, and then I'll stop sharing now. gives you a glimpse at that blog, just for the record, in this video. So thanks for mentioning that.
Can I just share, when you describe this now, because I didn't see last week's session, I think I only saw the first 5 minutes or something, but this sounds so incredibly interesting. And the first thing that really came to me as you described it was, if there's a strong focus on what world would you young people most want to live in, and if that sort of was the main direction, so to say, like if you could dream the best possible world that you can imagine, how would that be? And if everything sort of built from that could really be powerful. Just really had to share that, because that came to me as I listened to you.
I was thinking about another model where we could get 40 or 31 kids together to write another declaration. What would the declaration look like if they wrote it?
Yeah.
And what would they value?
Yeah.
Is it pursuit of happiness? Because to me, and this is just very personal, life is not about happiness. I think happiness is overrated. There's actually things much, much more important than happiness. So I would write things differently. But on the other hand, I'm a staunch supporter of the Constitution. I think those of us that are, corrupting the Constitution right now, they need to go away. They need to go, be put in prison. But that's just me. But I was also thinking about this other model where we could get 40 kids to say, okay, what would be that declaration, that they would write. But Teen Congress is where I landed with this domain, so I'll see if the other domain is available. Thanks for that indication of support. Alex.
Yes, happiness is a desire most of us have, but it doesn't correspond to a peaceful existence, because we have to compare it with sadness. If we never experience any sadness in our life, we wouldn't know we were happy. Over.
Any other feedback from me before we move into the last 5 minutes? Okay, going 3 times. Okay, all right. So we did say that for 5 minutes, we would try to co-create what this next session would be that's focused around Big Bang, spirituality, religion, those kind of topics. So forgive me if I mischaracterize that. But at this point, it's like Colin and Jaswinder. The proposal is to have this next Saturday. How would you like to put together 1 or 2 or 3 bullets on what next Saturday is, so that we could actually have that as the starting point next Saturday? And this is optional for you guys. If not, I'll just write down what I just said and I'll leave it at that. But this is a chance for us to do this, or for anybody else to contribute to that. Yes, Jaswinder.
There are 1 or 2 premises that I iterated at the start of the particular session that I did, which I moderated. One of those things is to remember that we live in a system that repeats itself. Everything that we are here today have spent billions of years learning. And the fact that you're here today means that there has been no break between you and the start of life, whatever and wherever that was, to be here. So all that memory has to exist somewhere. To give you an example, science tells us that there's approximately some 3 million years of Stone Age. So some of our ancestors spent 3 million years practicing stone tools. And that is a single action that they repeated to learn it, to carry it forward. Hold that premise to be true, and everything else holds true as well. The biological processes that have brought us here are repetitive all the way back. The physical processes that creation took are all repetitive to bring us here. So from that, we can remove words like spirituality, religion, etc. All I'm talking about are the processes that have brought us here and are the ones that are carrying us forward. In one word, that would be evolution. I'm complete.
Okay, so you want me to not use the words religion or spirituality, but use the word evolution. Is that what I'm hearing?
I do remember that when I did the presentation, I didn't use those words, spirituality and things, religion, none of
No,
those.
that was your session. I'm talking about a different session now.
Okay.
I'm talking about a session.
In this session, I would like to also say that there is no difference between the way that the ancestors have thought about these processes and science.
It feels to me like we're already having this conversation. I'm wondering how it is we could characterize this conversation so that we could actually
It's 10 hours.
So that we could actually have it next week. So how could we describe this conversation so that we could actually have it next week rather than now? Is what I'm hoping for.
Processes of creation.
Okay, processes of creation. Colin, what's your feedback on that? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking that it was more of a conversation, not just between me and Jaswinder, but space that we could take outside of barn raising, which we're going to bring into a special day of barn raising. I was thinking of it as more of a place to define terms. So, because we keep, I guess, nitpicking over certain things. And if we're going to have a spiritual conversation or whatever you want to call it, and then that's fine. But if it's not focused on that topic, then I think what comes up is a bunch of chaos at that point. As you mentioned, you have a hard time as well. I can't remember what exactly you said, but I relate to the fact that I have a hard time following some of these conversations about infinity and to zero. Doug does it as well. Mention him, he's not here, we'll break that rule. But you know, I think he was talking about reaching someplace. So there is this conversation to be had, but I have a hard time with it. If you wanted to dedicate a whole show towards it, I think there's more than one person that would be interested in
So
having.
I suggest the following. Rather than trying to get agreement here, could each of you come up with 1, 2, or 3 bullets during the week, okay, in the Barn Raising Regulars Facebook Messenger group, so that we could see if the union of all those bullets could be what we use to talk about next week. Is that okay?
Yeah, I like what Heiner proposed to get ready. He says like we can have a one-on-one and discuss what it is we want to do. I like that. I like that kind of a proposal instead of just trying to do it all in the open at first. I like the idea of getting ready for it. I think I've mentioned that as well in the past. And it says, well, we can get ready in the time, but we never really get ready to get ready. So
you guys are welcome to do so. There's no restriction.
Yeah. So why don't we plan on having a Facebook thing, but we could have a one-on-one as well between you and if Doug wanted to be in it, Jaswinder. I think Stacy had a lot to say about the fact of how, history of tradition can block people. I think I heard her getting.
That doesn't sound like a one-on-one anymore. But
but I mean an offline, not Saturday, different space, one-on-one with as many people that want to have that conversation.
It seems to me that it's Colin who needs those one-on-ones.
Yeah.
With the topics that he doesn't quite have set in his mind. I'm sorry, Alex. I saw your hand up as well. I won't take long. The bits that we've already discussed that Colin is mentioning, if they've not set in his mind, if he doesn't understand them, then I have no problem of going through them again. But I don't particularly want to do it with Doug because I'm pretty sure Doug understands them, whereas Colin doesn't appear to do so. So it has to be in a context that Colin would understand that. And at the same time, I don't see any reason why others can't join in. I'm complete. All yours, Alex.
Carl's next. He had his hand up too.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't taken it down, but
Okay, I wanted to mention that when you've got all those bullets in the barrel, in the chamber, and you pull the trigger, you're going to get a scattergun effect. So that's opposite to focusing. But anyway, that's beside the point.
That brings
That's
up
a good idea.
Alex.
The bullet
You
points.
can moderate next Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm under the impression that Jazz is trying to have another meeting about what it is that he's trying to say, so that we all understand what his message is. And for
Wait,
me to
can we
listen.
not have the conversation now?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's not the conversation I was planning on having. That would be another one Jazz could request. I'm requesting
I
one.
haven't said that.
My request is specifically that we have an offline, not Saturday, conversation to get ready to possibly have a
Everybody's
conversation.
heard your request.
So there.
Right? Everybody's heard your request. Go ahead and set it up if you like. And it's in support of this thing that's going to happen next Saturday. And so, you know, completely agree. You know, if you want to set it up, let's set it up.
Yeah,
But-
well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It should be
But
interesting.
have the
took
energy
a couple of notes.
Please drive this, okay?
Yeah, I just want to say I took a couple of notes. Origin of existence, infinity, memory, biological repetitive processes, evolution, and processes of creation. That was a few of the things that just Winder mentioned, and Colin's been mentioning definition of terms, context, and understanding, and obviously journeys.
All right.
So-
Well, my only request is we finish all of that discussion in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Look, the whole point, other people have brought up this point that, you know, we felt unfinished after these sessions. Part of the art of this is focusing it enough so that you can go someplace with a relatively focused topic. If we're going to talk about all of science and all of theology, I doubt that we're going to get very far in 2 hours. We may get to some 2 or 3 definitions, but then don't feel disappointed if we feel unfinished after 2 hours. That's my feeling about this. So if you want to come up with 1 or 2 or 3 focused topics, you know, let's do that. But if you want to include everything under the, not under the sun, beyond the sun.
I'm not quite clear on what Colin actually wants, because he's
Actually, I can clear it up. I just wrote it. It is important to say that I want to clear the air of the religious talk. So how do we get into a discussion about how to side rail or put religious talk into a special area? I don't want to make a special area to have the religious talks to get deep into it with Jazz Winder unless we agree to do that at some time, which is not what this is. So I'm talking about clearing the, because a lot of time religious talk comes up and it
But
gets
Colin, he
away.
didn't even mention religion. He
Well,
said
that's what-
specifically
no, that's
didn't
what I'm
want to talk
specific.
about that.
Well, then
what
that's
do you
not
think
the.
about processes of creation? What's
Okay,
your
well,
opinion on that?
I will
creation.
I will propose that, Glenn, that one thing. I
No.
want to find a way to have, and whatever you guys want to do, that's fine. But that's what I'm talking about. How do I not get involved in religious conversations, and how do we side rail them more? Or is it something that we want to get into deeply and have some meetings on? It seems like you guys already want to do it. I'm kind of anti doing it. I think it gets in the way of actually moving forward at barn raising. I think it may be great for the other shows, you know, unblocking and stuff. That'd be great.
A lot of hands up. We're way beyond
Go
10.
ahead.
So
Go
I'm
ahead.
going to say anybody who wants to continue is free to continue. Okay. But right now it looks like we're trying to focus on how it is we have this conversation next Saturday. We've got a few items from Just Winder. We've got 1 item from Colin. For me, that's enough. Okay. But if you guys want to go further than that, feel free. We've also got an action item from Colin to set up a separate session between now and Saturday to plan the session for Saturday. So Colin, I'm hoping that since you've got the energy on that, that you set that up. Okay. With that, I think I'm at my current state of understanding.
Yeah, we can coordinate that through the Facebook post, right? Yeah.
Messages.
Thanks. Sounds good.
Stacia, if you'd like to be invited to the messenger group for this particular forum,
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that was okay with you.
Invite me. I'm not committing.
Okay.
But invite me, please.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to say goodbye. I've got a place I need to be. Bless you all. Have
Well,
a wonderful week or so before I see you. Bye.
Thanks for joining us, Stacia. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Just
Okay.
reminding people to save the chat file if you're leaving the session, because you'll lose that.
Actually, it does not get lost. I always include it in the document that I prepare after these sessions.
Okay.
I've been doing that for, I think, 2 years now.
So are we, yeah, now we sort of ended the main session. I was just curious because I didn't hear Colin say, what do you think about the suggestion Jess Winder had for a topic, processes of creation? That was the suggestion. I wondered if that would be more interesting for you.
Can I interject before Colin responds to that? What I had done was I asked for a suggestion from both Jess Winder and Colin. So we heard from Jess Winder. We also just now heard from Colin. So
That's why I wondered, yeah.
Could be included for next week's conversation. Okay, Colin, sorry to interrupt.
I'm not exactly sure what you're proposing that Jaswinder suggested.
It was processes of creation.
I think there could be various talks that people could give, and and that would be one set. I'm not trying to set a series of talks about any topic. What I'm trying to do is avoid a conflict. What I see is that I have a conversation about, is it something that we want to follow through on, in maybe get a few places where we've had this argument. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I think that religion comes up and it stands in the way of things, and I think that there might be a good place to have those conversations, but it doesn't seem to line up with what I'm trying to achieve. So I don't mind having any type of thing brought into the group. I'm not against anything. I'm just saying whether we focus on it and say for certain, I know this and I know that, and we should do this or we should do that. And, it just starts to get down that road where I'm thinking, like, if we had maybe some agreements on what we do to not get down the wrong road, as it seems that it has. Now, maybe it's just me. I don't know. I do see other people having adversity and would like to discuss the larger topic of, does religion actually help? Is it supportive? And that kinds of things. So it is a conversation about religion. I think Jazz wants to talk about something different, and I encourage him to set up some time and space wherever he wants to do that and pursue whatever he wants to.
Well, I add something here, okay? There's clearly a history and some energy with you, Colin, and Jess Winder. So that's why I'm leaving it to the two of you to scope out what it is the conversation would entail. Clearly, it's important to you to understand how to converse about religion. I think that therefore it's valid to have that conversation next week. So why can't we leave it at that?
I think we can. I just want to be clear that it's within the context of, how do we want to discuss religious topics within barn raising?
Did anyone suggest we discuss religious topics? Why did you bring that up? Winder didn't suggest that.
Well, it's been building a long time, and Doug's, it's been across various conversations. Anyway, we can talk about this later. If I'm the instigator of it, I want to be, I want to make sure that it's what I was thinking, not what somebody else is thinking.
Yeah, so what do you think? Like, what would you most want to go into in terms of, for example, understanding? You talked about that a lot.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we want to go into an after show if anybody else wants to check out. I definitely answer that question for you, but I think it would take like a minute. So if Heiner...
I'm just thinking aloud, maybe that's a connection. Like, you're interested in understanding might connect to this idea of evolution and processes of creation and biological and memory, which clearly Jazz wants to go into. I was just wondering if that's, maybe something that could connect it or something.
Well, it could be that I'm not completely understanding what it is you guys are doing with your endeavors and what you expect as results. So, you know, I might not have anything to say about that.
Well, I just want to,
because
learn.
I'm talking about barn raising. I'm not talking about GCC as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know,
I kind of feel that the barn is sort of a body of understanding that
right.
we kind of have to deal with the basic questions really of our existence one way or another. But maybe we could do it in a way that's a little more free. It's kind of a little bit what I'm hearing you say too. Not free from the traditional stuff.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I see things in barn raising in a scientific motif, not a spiritual motif.
Well, why are those contradictory? I think they're totally aligned.
There's nothing wrong with being excited, but if you're expecting while you're building the barn some magic to help you build the barn, then it's within context. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying there has been in my mind different conflicts that I think specifically Jazz and I have had. I think Sam has had with a few people. It'd be interesting if we had those segments and we could just talk about those as opposed to what it is I'm trying to say. So it'd be good to go back and maybe find a couple of those.
Yeah, you mean like a few of the misunderstandings or some of the topics that have come up several times.
Yeah, harvest some of the gems. And because I know I've heard Sam say it 17 times what it is I'm trying to say. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah.
If the people engaged in building the barn haven't got the skills tied to the chore they're undertaking, you can have accidents, you know. People with sawing wood with saws have cut themselves and what have you. So that's important. It's important not to put two people together in the same room to build a boat when one of them's an electrician and the other one's an architect. You need a carpenter and a plumber. Over.
I think part of the magic is the focus of what the particular agenda is. So one Saturday could be very different from another Saturday. But it's when they're all just kind of mushed all together. I think some of the conflicts come from hearing the same things over and over again, and it could just be personal pet peeves, or who knows, maybe there's something to harvest there. But I think the feeling that I have is that it sidetracks the conversation where we could be having a better conversation.
So do I hear you right, Colin, that you maybe don't understand what is Gaswinder's agenda? Because maybe that's something that would be like, if you could just say that briefly, for example, just when you're like, what do you see as like the purpose of you want to obtain? I mean, well, if that's clear, maybe it's easier to.
Well, I think it is triggers of misunderstanding. So it's basically being better understood with what it is you're trying to say. So everybody has a message, and they should be able to say what they have to say. Like there's no problem there. It's when people get on to lecturing and making worldviews that they're expecting to use to solve the problem that you're talking about. Perhaps some of those worldviews aren't, you know, maybe we should be more, how do you say, secular, right? And if you really want to get into a religious thing or some kind of a tool that you can use in a spiritual way, because I think there's the science part of things and then there's the human side of things. And we do need good tools for, you know, the human side of things. And you can see Kayla has gifts there, you know, people who can.
There's the science part of things and there's the human part of things.
Yes, yes. Well,
I was under the impression humans created science.
What I mean is science doesn't have an opinion on humans.
Science is something we do. Can we say that?
Science has the greatest opinion on humans. The word human was coined to replace another phrase that's been used for eons.
Humans do that. Humans use science to give meaning to humans. But science itself isn't going to discriminate. It's going to do what it does. If you can not imagine.
So is science itself like a process that humans do?
And
Would
I
you
think
say that?
to me, I think where we kind of branch multimodal is where we're making models to bridge between different topics. So it is important to be able to go through the land of spirituality without getting snagged into it in the conversations.
See,
But
there's another
it
thing
depends
that
on the
keep
focus.
doing. You keep referring to spirituality, religion, science, humanity, as in humans, and they are clearly defined. So unless you're following those clear definitions, you're causing a lot of confusion in your own mind.
Maybe. I'm just
Well,
saying.
there's no maybe about it. And the other thing I would like to say to you quite clearly and categorically is that science at no particular time has investigated religiosity nor spirituality. They don't have the tools for it, and nor do they have done any of the thinking nor the practicing.
Well, that's an interesting conversation.
To ask science to prove something in that direction is impossible.
Well,
and I have never ever accused science of that bias anyway.
Go ahead, Alex.
There was a study done of ancient scripture, Sanskrit literature, by some academic people. They were scholars in ancient languages, scholars. They're very gifted people. But what they said was, in the conclusion, was that the oldest Sanskrit stories they could find were virtually children's bedtime stories. And they had mythical monsters with multiple heads and all this sort of thing. But they relayed a message, and that's what parents were teaching their children this way, with bedtime stories, to instill moral and values into their kids. And that's how religion began, I think, from the fear of dying.
Nothing to do with religion. Those sort of stories abound in the Western Hemisphere as well.
Religiosity.
They're all over the place, and most of them are carried from one place to another.
When the religiosity got hold of it, it became a monstrosity. Over.
I'm not sure whether you can read a few stories and say they become monstrosities, especially when you say they're carrying some sort of a message.
I mean, isn't it like an incredibly vast number of phenomena that happen with people in space, moving in the terrain, having their interactions, the processes, and where religion is a category, it's an idea, it's a meme that we sort of superimpose on a totality of experiences and a totality of processes, which far exceeds any of our personal experiences. So it doesn't even make sense to say that religion is this or science is this. Is simply a word. But the issues that Jess Windsor brought up about origin of existence, that's a question that we could ask without any of these systems, right? Memory, something we can relate to. Sense impressions, definitely a connection we can relate to directly. Evolution, what does that mean? I think we all agree, for example, that there's a process of evolution in nature, but perhaps we, the human beings, are in a sense on the cutting edge of evolution, so that the next step of evolution is different. So I guess what I want to ask is, could we, for example, just leave all these concepts behind? Could we just completely begin from the beginning, just see it with totally new eyes? Yeah, well, what are you thinking, Ms. Linder?
I thought of something funny, a bit of humor. When the first living cell decided that was good, I'll do that again. That was the birth of science, I think.
When we talk about processes, any process, all processes have evolved. And if a cell could think, I'd eat my socks. I'm complete.
And also, like science, does real science even exist? Like, does anyone here think that real science, in the full sense, intelligent, social, search for knowledge, with empirical facts, with a regard for truth, actually trying to question everything, does this actually happen? Because I don't see it happening in many places,
Right.
maybe like in small pockets on a
Yeah.
really good day. But mostly what is called science seems to be, a very limited version of what it pretends to be, for sure. And there's money involved, and there's egos involved, and there's all the categories involved.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Colin, about that?
Well, I'm thinking that's kind of the same framing, but how I'm thinking about, religion. And I don't really
Yeah,
want,
it's the same thing
it's the same
there
thing.
too.
And
It's
they
not
both,
real, it's fake.
well, it is real in the sense that it's part of our history. For example, knowledge of the Bible is very important because there's a lot of cultural references, and to understand why people act the way they do. It would be good for aliens to get a lesson in the Bible, whether they plan on believing it or not, just so that it makes a lot of sense of how society is organized. And there's many different religions. And I'm saying, if we're having a conversation where we're talking about a place on earth where there's some people who have a strong belief, and you're tasked to work with these people in some fashion, then I don't think that's the right place to be having a conversation whether their religion is valuable or not, because there's places to talk about it, and I feel that's kind of where we are here. So while people are trying to profess things, I just kind of push back against it a little bit. So if it is valuable, then please, by all means. And if if you're to have a show about it, so you said, is science really happening? Well, that sounds like a topic you could have a show about. Is science really happening? And you could dig down into that. Taking 20 or 30 minutes at barn raising for that, I don't know. Doing a deep dive at, what's the right format to get to the
Look, how
to get
can
into
we
that?
get anywhere in the world if we don't have systems for knowledge? Like, if we're going to organize a global society and people work together, we have to have some real knowledge, and the present
Sure.
systems don't produce real knowledge. Let me just cut the crap and say it simple. Real science doesn't exist. It's a whole lot of pseudoscience.
so-
It's passing for science.
So how
But the
about
question we're interested in barn racing is, what would real science be like? What
Sure,
would
I think that's great.
science that can include the inner work of a human, why shouldn't that be included as well? Why couldn't we have a evolved science, for example?
Okay,
Do you know what I
I'll
mean?
give you an example.
That's the
I'll give you an
connection.
example. I'll just give you an example. What if we had a place on the map that said things that we agree to? Okay, so one is evolution. So
Yeah.
do we think that there was an evolutionary process, or do you think, depending on your religion, creation has a different story? Right? That may or may not matter when you're talking about things.
Of course. Yeah, that's a
Right?
good place to begin.
So
Because
I'm on the
that's
map, and
really,
I'm on the map in barn raising where we all believe in evolution. If somebody
Yeah.
wants to start talking about, winged horses or whatever, and original sin and these kinds of things, it should be in relation to psychology in some way, not in relation to what I think advice we should be giving another person. Now, I'm saying should a lot here, and that's why I say it'd be nice to go back and see where some of those triggers were that I had, because I do follow this religion conversation as a sociological type of phenomenon, and as also very important in its historic and traditional influence. And there's so many different religions, and I think that they should be given respect of their culture who believes in them. But when we're doing global governance, I think we should try to sanitize the space as best we can while we're trying to build a map. And if what we have to do is put these items on the map, 85% of the people here at the group believe in evolution. 85% of the people here in this group want to follow the scientific method. There might be 15% of the time when science has nothing to say about something, and it's a difficult thing. And the point I was trying to make earlier, and I guess this is the last thing, is that that's only half of the puzzle. The other half of the puzzle is people with social skills who can organize and who do look at the spiritual element and these different things. I'm just not an expert in that area. I find very little use when I'm building a bridge to know, which deity's birthday it is. It just doesn't matter to me. Some people that matters a lot. So I have my own adversity and triggers when it comes up.
What about, for example, evolution in the sense of conscious evolution? Because
if it's within a topic of conscious evolution day, great. But if we're just going to come here and philosophize, I thought that might be like an experiment that we do on like Fridays. Like
what if we meet and we explore the topic of conscious evolution, and we try to use the conversation to actually assist conscious evolution? So we're not just philosophizing about it then.
Sounds like an experiment.
We're actually trying to practice it.
Yeah.
And it could be argued that that's what we're already doing every time we meet, that it's a process of consciousness evolving in conversation between people. So I'm just trying to see if I see a link here between what you two are talking about, because I think consciousness evolution might be a connection. Yeah.
All processes, religion, science included, evolve. Religions have evolved from a beginning to from single entities to multiple entities and back onto a single entity. If you ever want to have a look at the history of religions. As for creation, you talk about creation versus evolution. Everything evolves. Even the theory of creation evolves. And I don't see any reason why the theory of creation according to religions can't evolve. And you mentioned one religion and only one, and that's Christianity. It doesn't mean all religions believe in the same way of creation that that particular religion portrays. Because religions that came after that one, and some even before, believe different things. And a lot of religions have been destroyed anyway. And as there are 1.2 billion Christians of one denomination or another, and 1.4 billion Muslims of one denomination or another, and then you've got the other four large ones, who are probably another 2 billion, that's well over half the planet's population. What are you going to give them? You're going to have a riot on your hands if you say to them, no more religion. I don't want to hear it. When we have these meetings, none of you should talk about religion. They're not going to come to your meetings if you put parameters like that on, rules like that we don't talk about this subject. All subjects should be open, as Mr. Trump has said. I'm complete.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a reason to ban a topic. I think it's just bringing it within a context and being ready for it. And religion's a big topic. And I think as I'm thinking through it a little bit more now, it's when we brush against the more fundamentalist aspects where authority is trying to express itself is where really I have an issue with. So, and if one of us starts to get...
If you have an issue with authority...
No, authority
governance of... systems, you should have an issue with all governance systems, especially the big ones that are really, really bullying other people all over the planet.
I think we all have an issue with that stuff. Yeah.
I can't speak to the world's corruption, but I can say that I think it's the fundamentalists who are trying to claim truths.
But this
So
is
you
something I
then
hear
you would have to
everybody say.
You would have to say all fundamentalists.
No, there's some that keep to themselves.
Then you would have to agree on how you define a fundamentalist, because to the Islamics,
In the public sphere,
it's the Christians who are the fundamentalists. It was the Christians who started going down south to from Europe all the way down to Jerusalem. It wasn't the Islamists who came up north. That was much later.
Isn't the fundamentalists kind of those who are so convinced that they know, while they actually don't know? So it's like this arrogance. It's like this, they presume to have the answer to things they don't actually have the answer to. And what I've noticed is that the criticism of fundamentalism is also coming from almost all sides. But it's also one of those things where you point your finger to someone else and you say, they're fundamentalists. And they answer, no, you're the fundamentalist. And that's also an interesting dynamic. But I just noticed that that's a common theme. It's this, you actually don't know this for sure. And that's also the main message of the mystics. And that's also interesting. So in that sense, the mystics are in a totally different end of the spectrum compared to the fundamentalists, while they're far closer to the pure scientists, while let's say the commercial science is closer on the other end again, for example. So it's very interesting to notice that too, because that seems to be within each religion. You have a mystic class which considers everything very mysterious. They want to have a direct contact with the spirit, etc. And then you have the fundamentalists who are more interested in the structure, the law, you know, the rituals, the sort of formalities.
I think it's
yeah.
I think it's fundamentalism is people who know they are right. They've got the truth.
Yeah.
The only truth that exists is the fundamentalist belief, and they will die to stand up to that fact that they've got the answer. They know that they know it.
Two fundamentalist groups on the opposite sides of the planet, or very close to each other on the planet. They're both going to annihilate themselves, each other, are they? Because they both believe they're right.
But every year there's more children coming out of them synagogues and schools. There's people, the population is growing on the planet, no matter how many religious wars we have.
We're talking about fundamentalists.
They're not having an impact on the population growth of the world. There's more of them every year.
It's also a bit about a group identity, right? That they have this one group identity that they're really identified with.
In 1883, the world population was about 1 billion.
And they were not fundamentalists in those 1 billion.
Well, anyway, they know the truth. They know for a fact what the truth is, and they will die defending that truth. They got the answer.
They went out for their own personal glory, to make a name for themselves.
And they're not willing to accept any other view.
They had no inkling of truth then,
no other view.
The inkling of truth now.
If you've got a view differing from theirs, you're a heretic. You're an infidel.
Exactly.
I guess what I'm looking at is the fundamentalists that have authority and are making black and white decisions. I think it's more about black and white decisions, and fundamentalism is one way to get there. People who don't, as Glenn says, what do you know for sure? Okay, well, within a context, it might be valuable to discuss that. It's not always valuable to discuss, the wide topic. So
I really would like to stop you there for a moment.
So, well, just hold on. But the talk about whether there's a God or, all those questions, that's really a different show.
Fundamentalism, and you talk about black and white problem. It wasn't a black and white problem as clear cut as that.
No. But I'm not trying to say fundamentalism
between whites and whites. on the same country. When
No, I'm talking about
Christianity
dichotomies,
I'm
logical.
talking about dichotomy too.
Yeah,
When
okay.
Christianity broke into from Catholicism and Protestantism, there was a big chasm that opened up. And as Protestants grew in strength, they tended to pretty much annihilate, enslave the Catholics. And that's why the Catholics and other minority religions went to the Americas and did what was happening to them over here, they did to the poor Indians over there. So it wasn't a clear-cut case of black and white. It is a clear-cut case of fundamentalism between
As is the political
The
left
history
and the
plays a
political
part.
right, the Democratic Party, the Republican parties, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's this group identity. We have all the answers. All you guys on the other side, you're idiots. We're not even gonna listen to you. It's that mentality which is just dumb in a sense, or it's like it's delusional. It's like it just has these,
Yeah,
things.
now we're talking about psychology and sociology, which is interesting to
Exactly.
me. The retrospective of what kind of a situation and an environment are you in, but to bring in religious solutions to barn raising was what I was specifically talking about that I didn't like.
What do you mean by religious solutions, then?
Well, I don't know. We'd have to go back and look at some of the triggers, but I think the religious and I think the real conversation is about people who think in dichotomies, who think if it's not this, then it must be that.
If I remember correctly, the one of the big triggers was that the phrase you kept using, and it was religious mumbo jumbo.
Oh, I thought you were going to say atheist, because that's another one.
But Colin, actually,
I used the word
think that's
woo. I used the
important.
word woo for that. Sorry.
But Colin, seriously, this is something that I've observed. It would be really great if you try to not caricature, the kind of stupid versions of, like, using a word like woo, for example, or
I'll only drop the W word, if I feel necessary.
I actually like that word, but my view is that we all inevitably have to talk woo on some level, especially if we want to go into the creative unknown areas.
The thing is that there's maybe a handful of different conversations we have here, and sometimes they're more serious and sometimes they're not. And I'm just saying, when I want to go into some of the more serious conversations, and then I think Sam alluded to it today that sometimes people make certain quick comments and we lose the focus, or in other ones people say all the time is there must be a reason for everything, or there's a reason for everything. Well, in physics there's a reason for everything, so to speak, but not coincidentally, and then all of a sudden you're finding meaning and you get spirit, what do you call it, when people have a phobia, the word's escaping me right now, superstitious. People are superstitious. Yeah. And when I see superstition coming in and people are starting to spin around in circles and sprinkle water all over, I'm saying, okay, here we go with the woo, because I just can't relate to it. Right. But if they're liking it, that's fine. But if they're saying, okay, now everybody has to buy woo water, I'm saying, okay, well, wait now, I don't think that's a great idea. I'm going to be triggered if I have to go out and buy woo water now to be considered part of the group. Or is that where we're taking, if it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter in the conversation, basically. So I guess maybe I can let a lot of stuff go, but, and I was saying it'd be nice to have a conversation, because Sam was leading towards it and Doug was leading towards it. What is the value of, religious standpoints? And one of them would be evolution. Another one would be
community.
What's the value of it? Like, where is it actually good, and where can we use it, and where can we protect and not attack it?
Talked about that in religion as a natural phenomenon. He said that what he thought was evolutionary, unique about it was that it was love-based communities where, all people were welcome, in a sense. Let's say religion at its best, on its best days. have a function like that, for example.
I guess
And
the word
that's pretty interesting.
coexistence, right? The word's coexistence.
Exactly, because I think that's a connection, because if we look at that, that might make us think, what would real community be between people today? And could there be a community which could also stimulate us in terms of, you could call it spiritual development or psychological development, or simply a search for truth, or a search for clarity, which is much of the purposes of all spiritual traditions have to do with truth, clarity, or perception. Very big word, perception.
What do you think though? What do you think though when somebody comes in and they're very certain about something, and you know, from their
that's
worldview?
A problem. That's a problem. We have to put that aside, and I think we all agree on that. And I think we could be ready to do it, to sort of put that aside. And while we're meeting, you know, we can be open and just.
Also, I think there's also the effect where people try to say stuff in a small amount of space, like the barn raising, they can only say so much. So unless they have a whole day dedicated towards it or a deep dive, you know, I think Jazz does have things that he's trying to say, and he, you know, I even today he got on to how he could start to explain how all of these things come together. And I was saying, well, I'm not down for that. That's not what maybe in another proposal, sure, but that's not what I'm thinking that this is. This is more about how do we focus barn raising on knowing how to coexist with all these different worldviews without stamping on any. So, you know, I'm saying if we take a secular standpoint where we don't, for lack of a better word, preach our worldview. Now I'm preaching science, but it's not really preaching because science isn't a religion. It's just, and science doesn't care if I preach for it.
Science is asking me to believe things which it can't prove.
Well,
like what?
A thing we do.
So you don't know the things that science is asking you to believe.
Is science being?
Science doesn't say it has the answer. Science does not say it has the answer. Science helps us build models to look at things.
So does religion.
No, it is a tool, like a hammer.
So is science.
Science is a hammer, yes.
Science is a hammer.
Yes.
So is religion.
Well, actually, science is a mold that you can use to build a hammer or a screwdriver or whatever you can envision that might help you. No, it's a monkey stick. It's a monkey stick. It's a monkey stick to move forward.
It's so clear that people.
Whatever you say about the one party holds true for the other party.
And as long as it's within context, I don't see any problem. It's when they start to cross swim lanes.
In whatever context you say it is.
Well, governance in the public forum.
I say, hey guys, if you're going to have the conversation now, we don't have to have the conversation next week. So are we having it now or next week?
Well, I think we're preparing to have what it is. It's a small disagreement.
We're talking about talking. So far, Colin has been laying down a whole set of rules about how the conversation should go, not how a tolerant conversation should go.
I don't think so. I'm saying have an agenda what the conversation's about, and if it's in a public forum.
Why does there need to be so much conversation about having the conversation?
Exactly.
That's a rhetorical question.
No.
Well,
why do we need a conversation about having the conversation?
I think they were trying to find out.
Because he's confused. He's confused, and I've got time to talk to him.
I thought the point was to find out how to formulate the topic.
I object to being accused of being confused by a confused person.
Exactly.
Totally confused person.
There you go. There you go.
Colin.
Yeah. So I guess I think Colin, I've been misunderstood.
Colin, if you can't take something as simple as the concept of time and explain it like I did and get Dougie to agree to it, how can you go on to other concepts?
I don't know if I need to have that deep of an understanding of time to move forward.
If you don't have that, then how can you profess to understand science?
I don't have to understand science. Only what I need to know.
only what you need to know. So you're
Yes.
a blind follower.
I am
just
not
like
the authority.
People on the other side.
I'm not the authority. I'm just a voice.
Who's the
So
authority?
am I.
Well, I'm not, and science isn't the authority either. Religion
no
professes to be an authority. Yes, it does.
Some versions of it. So the professor's not an authority? Colin? Colin,
that
seriously,
is
do you really think that the professor is not an
That is your
authority?
opinion. You have
No, they
no
can be. They
idea
can be.
whether science considers itself as an authority or not. All through
Okay.
coronavirus, science has been considered as the key authority.
I think a professor could be an authority, yes, because they have a specialty. Like, for example.
Thank you.
So how about the
So
fact
we
that we
agree
come from
then.
mushrooms? How about that?
So,
We come from mushrooms. That means nothing to us, right? Other than understanding how genetics works.
No, it
So
means everything to me and nothing to you.
No. I just make it a fact to some people and they agree with me, and another people they don't agree with me, and does it even matter?
When you start talking about things like some people may agree and some people may not, you are going back to the dichotomy. Okay?
No, I'm talking about a
if
science
you say
fact.
that we
I'm talking
come
about a
from
science fact. It's important.
Mushrooms are one of the oldest
Forget about the
living
mushroom.
mechanisms.
Let's
living
take flat
things
Earth.
on planet
Take flat
Earth.
Earth. Okay, I'm done. Take
was
flat
Colin
Earth.
what? Yeah.
Take any one of these ridiculous things. Some people.
You're the one who's being ridiculed.
Okay, you
don't even know you're doing it. And I find it extremely objectionable that you start accusing the other party, that's me, of being a ridiculous person.
But we can skip all that. We can skip
You're not
all
even
that.
specific, are you? You're
No, I'm
scared
saying,
of
for
being
example-
specific. But then you have the fail-safe position of saying, I don't know, I don't need to know.
Right.
But science is the authority.
Within the conversation that I'm having, I don't have to know everything.
Well, I don't know which conversation you're having.
I'm just giving for examples. I'm giving examples of where people are in different ideas when
We're
they're
not
having a
talking
conversation.
about people.
Yes, we are. We're talking. Right. I'm talking about conversations we have at barn raising where different worldviews enter into it. And
only
I'm saying,
yours and mine at the moment.
I go with science, not with spirituality.
What does science even mean? What does science even mean? I have no idea what you mean by science, Colin. You use these words again and again and again, and
Stuff
it's
that's
never
testable and you
clear
can use
what
to
it
predict
means.
It means
yeah, but
stuff
that's not what it actually means, because science are professors. It's
no.
It's organizations which are profit-driven with hierarchical structures.
The humans
that science that you talk about doesn't exist.
You're talking about the monkeys. You're talking about the monkeys that go around and beat people with science sticks. No, I'm not talking about
science. Is something we do.
No, you're talking about people and corruption. Is what you're talking about.
Yes, but
okay, well that's a different topic. Sure, people use every tool. Monkeys use different tools for different things. Okay, hold on. I don't know why you guys are taking adversity to the fact that I like to stick to the facts. And when you guys make claims,
can't we talk about the facts then?
Yes,
that was my question. Why do we have to use these stupid, vague terms that nobody knows what they mean? When you say science, I don't know what the fuck you mean. When you say religion, I don't know what you mean.
Okay,
when you say
science.
Spirituality, I don't know what
is
you
easy.
mean.
Science
it's
is
vague.
easy.
It's not easy. I studied
yes, it is.
philosophy
Hold on.
of
You
science.
ready? Listen,
Philosophers of science have no clear agreement on what science is.
Calm down. You're talking about different issues you have with some scientific discussions of uncertainties. Sure, a lot of uncertainty exists. If you want exact answers to everything, you're not going to find them. But if you take a method of getting to the truth, I will follow the scientific method, and I will expect that if it's wrong, it will prove itself wrong, as opposed to follow tradition all the time. Now, I'm not saying there's not a place where people knowing the land and where they come from and what you should do, and they say, oh, there's this spirit and it will have harm for you if you don't pay attention, when really there's some danger there that they've just made into a story. It might be worth appreciating what they're saying while you're in their territory. But I'm saying in barn raising, we're in a public forum, right? And I'm thinking it should be secular, and that's all. And I'm saying if if a certain worldview has a value, then let's see it. And if it's something that one of the members here want to express, then maybe we should have a way to facilitate them, like Heiner wants to express some things, right? So we could facilitate Heiner in preparing his message. He's not trying to ram it down our throats and saying, because you don't understand time, you can't, figure out how to have a conversation, right?
But
So
you
we need to move forward.
You just said that in spawn racing, you want to follow the scientific method.
May I jump in?
And
no, when I'm trying to find truth, when we're having discussions about truth.
Why can't we just do that? Because if we're going to do that, we have to include the spiritual elements of psychology as long as human beings are involved in the process. It applies. It does.
If it applies, sure.
It always applies.
Boys,
Heiner had something. Yeah, Heiner, what are you thinking about?
Yes. You see, I was doing my first Zooms and I was told not to interrupt each other. I was last week in a session where the moderator asked for correcting conversations, and he really encouraged much interrupting and shouting over each other. And when I listened to you three, I think this is a piece for a parody. You should go on stage to really show how easy it is to fight against each other.
Yes, I agree.
It's very, very clear that terms mean different things to different people in different environments. And
this is comedy hour, Heiner. Yeah.
We have one word and we have definitions of that. And I understand Colin very well, because there is so much dogma and this fundamentalistic and dualistic and elbow fighters who can not even count until 1 or 2. And there are others like you, Glenn, who know about Gurdjieff and maybe Jean Gebser and see the needs for including the spirituality. All this is possible. And if we step out of this for a moment, like I have done in your conversation here, I could have been roaring with laughter, because you're so stuck in your pigeonhole and fight if science is a stick or is it a crutch. Maybe you can make a crutch out of a stick, but you study the life work of Carl Sagan, who was really stoned for being transdisciplinary and including everything, then you see all this discussion depends if you speak with a Western or Eastern or South American or whatever viewpoint. So bringing it all together, it was too much enjoyment, and I have to say bye-bye. Good night and good luck.
Yeah, glad to have you here, Heiner. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Heiner. We'll talk again.
I have to go now, guys, but I mean, I love talking to you about this. I mean, even if it's difficult, because
let me just
very big questions.
Let me just bookend it with, I think I've said it before, it comes down to claims and certainty. And it doesn't really matter what the topic is. So if it's
claims and what we know.
They're going to make a claim and how certain they are, and why should I believe it, and is it really important? Or is it just a worldview? You know, the history does matter. Jazz was bringing up a bunch of history and, you know, how things came to be. That stuff.
You've got this very bad way of putting words and making a statement about somebody, what somebody else is doing.
No, from my point of view, I like the history of it.
Let me put a question to you.
Sure.
On what premise does science base the Big Bang Theory?
Well, I'm not a physics expert. I have watched a lot of documentaries on it, and all I can say is even aeobiogenesis is a big word as well that we don't know exactly, but we're in a different environment now than it was then. This I know. And I'm trying to deal with what's now, and where the history is important and relevant, it's important. I think what Heiner said, there is a lot of different viewpoints to come into things. And I think
You're
trouble
doing
for
it
me.
again.
The only thing I want to take umbrance to.
You don't have an opinion on that, do you?
claim.
You're telling me what Heine is telling you.
I'm saying if
and
you
what
have a
somebody
claim,
else is telling you.
let's go back to what I said. I'm saying if there's a claim, if you're making a claim and you want to, give some knowledge, how certain are you of this claim? Is it something that might help, or something that will definitely help, or something that you can't live without?
Might be a hypothesis.
And
might
when
be
some
an
people
idea.
get into fundamentalist religions and they get into
The other thing is, are you now aware that there are a lot of scientists who are saying the same thing, that we can't expect people to believe the particular theory of that explosion?
Having a conversation about the Big Bang, whether it happened. I had a conversation with Glenn about whether everything is eternal.
The beginning of everything, yeah, eternity.
I've had a long conversation with Glenn about that.
Because that's actually something everybody agrees on.
I enjoy discussing zero. My conclusion with Glenn was maybe it bounces. Maybe it does, so maybe.
But then even then it would be an infinite bouncing, right?
Yes.
It just kind of repeats itself.
Okay, then we go on to the third question.
But the thing is, that's a whole different discussion. And
yeah, then we go on to the third question, which is my final question, and then I'm putting this question, I'm going, because currently there's no particular consensus on the answer. What was there before the Big Bang? Goodbye.
Well, I have a question for you.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Jess. Why is that important to us?
Well, Jess Winder went, but I would say it's important to us because if it actually is true that we exist in a world which has in fact existed forever, if that actually is the case, that there has actually always been life in some sense, there's always been events, there's always been occurrences, there's been movement forever. If that actually is the case, that must mean that also evolution has happened forever. And that again opens up a whole new range of possibilities of an infinite number of dimensions, of levels, that there might be, far deeper layers in our in nature than we are aware of.
Where do you think that discussion fits within the realm of the GCC and barn raising?
I think it fits in with simply understanding the world we live in and understanding who we are in order to be able to respond to the situation and be able to create a better world. We have to base it on truth.
So what if we made a map and we made these little truths that you're looking at as like little stars in the sky, and you could click on any one of them?
Yes, that would be great. Especially, let's say we could formulate those stars
and you
with
could have
each person's truth.
You could have Glenn's little constellation, right? Or constellations.
Especially if we could formulate them really well in a way that person...
Well, that's up to you. That's up to you, because what I'm saying is, how do you park this in a spot that you can tend to it and feel like it's getting the attention you want to give it, and other people can see it and they know where it is on the map and there's a memory to it? Just as simple and plain as that. And because we have enough longevity with the GCC that I think that we could actually do what Sam wanted. And I've got another map that I've restarted, I mentioned it, that's simplified so that we can follow it together. I think it's just a barn raising map. So we can use that to greater memory, as a greater memory tool. So, I can see a lot. I can see a lot of your topics, as stars in the sky that might, because it definitely seems like big picture type stuff. You know what I mean? Like
yes, exactly.
Like
but I also want to add, since I know you're very interested in science, as you say, the scientific method, and as this is my view. I mean, it's just that there's some big ideals. There's a few things that have been achieved, but that real science in the full sense, I don't think has ever existed yet. So when you, I would be really interested to just ask this question and hear what all of you think. what do you think real science would be like? If
Well,
we were to
I'll
imagine
give
it,
you my answer. I'll give you my
yeah,
answer. It's just another analogy. I say, as I grew up, I looked at Little House on the Prairie as like old times, you know, back before there was cars, maybe even before electricity, outhouses, you know, no paved roads. Well, I think our technology right now is kind of going to look like that to the future.
yes,
Technology we
exactly.
got, like this is the wild west of technology we're living in. So right now we're on a road, a dirt road with dust piling up on us, and Sam's kind of hanging along there, and he's off in another virtual. But we will figure out this virtual space and how to use it more appropriately. And
It's like the QWERTY keyboard.
It will be
probably isn't the QWERTY keyboard. Probably isn't the evolutionary Mount Everest of written communication.
It'll be more mental.
Yeah.
You'll have memory of where your stars are, and that's where you tend to. And people want to see it, they come there, and you own them. You know, it's we are animals.
There are like holograms. You know,
They're
I
like
wouldn't
memories.
even want to have devices.
They're
Let's say we could have memory as like hologramic clouds or something.
What we need is good roads of navigation.
Good navigation. Yeah.
And right now, the roads that have been built by, well, Wild West. And they've been owned by the people that have owned them for the reasons like telephone companies and governments. But in the future, will information be able to go from person to person? Just like, you know, is connectivity something that should be free like air? Like expressing your point. And if you can't express your point about, say, let's project onto Jazzwinder, since he's not here, it's a great time.
Yeah.
You know, I think he has a message. So what's the best way? And I said the same thing for you, your stars. So we put Jazzwinder's stars up there in his constellation. And these are all the 7 things he would talk about. He could actually go off and YouTube could learn how to self-produce some of these, you know, 30-minute segments. And then you could give it to me and say, you know, Colin, we made a really good 30-minute segment. Would you like to watch this and think what we, you know, this is what message we're trying to say? Because I assume you're not just trying to teach me something. Right?
No, I mean, well, I can only speak for myself, but I'm really interested in finding out what are some of the universal truths that we actually can be sure about. And I think infinity is one of them.
Well, you could put it up on the map.
That's at least what I believe.
Well, how about you put infinity on the map and it'd be like right in the edge of the unknowns, right?
Yeah.
Because we've seen the known and the unknown map. So we could have, just like our map could have the unknown periphery, and your stars could be up near the firmament of the unknown, right?
Mm.
And so, you know, and there could be a confidence number beside there. Like Glenn thinks that this is like whatever percentage. Just give it a percentage. It's arbitrary, but if you say it's 100%, because that automatically makes it so somebody has to decide whether they're going to be a fundamentalist about that topic.
Well, why can't I just say
100% about anything, really?
But here's, I've been wondering this lately. Why can't we just say, here's an idea. I have no idea whether it's true or not. It's just what it is. It's an idea. And reality is what it actually is in any case. So if I guess right, I guess right. If there's an invisible super intelligence that's influencing us without us knowing it, then that actually is here. And
that sounds like a book or a hobby thing you're building. Like that doesn't sound like a GCC barn raising thing you're building. Like it doesn't feed into the group itself. It feeds into your project in the group. I see you as excelling on that by making your own stars, like, you know, making your own materials on this. And if you're trying to sell something to the group, I don't know how it is we're going to put it into the assembly line and use it. Just like Jasmine.
What if we,
I don't know how.
What if we had, let's say we had a cloud for all the people in the group who have come to the meetings, and we had a big map, all of their truths, what they believe, and their dreams for what world they would want to live in. Let's say you have a huge map of that, and let's say that each of those clouds are the result of a really well done deep dive where we listened with great attention and we actually grok it. We understand what that person's about and find a way of expressing it which is just clear. And
Okay, well,
then we have the bigger map. And then we can look at what are the connections? Are there some things that all these people are really interested in? So then we have a method where we could connect people.
well,
And on the basis of that, we could build new social systems and the new society, etc. That's the connection.
You can extrapolate. I think the kernel of the idea that I'm after is just having a memory of what it is each person's specialty is and what they want to say, you know, each person's constellation. And maybe once they go up and want to work, like Sam's got one up there now called Teen Congress.
Teen Congress.
So
that was a fantastic
there's
idea.
another little star. He puts it up in his constellation of governance. Okay.
I would totally want to support him with that, because
what I'm saying, this is what I'm seeing. So we're all down on the barn. We're working on the barn, painting the barn, and then Glenn says, "I want to go fly off into my area and bring down some of my stars, and let's talk about them right now." And I'm saying, if it was just
that's not what I said.
No, what I'm saying is that's what happens with the time of the format of the show. People grab from their stars and bring them into the show, which is kind of okay. But I think somebody realized, well, we better dedicate a whole show because their stars are, their constellations are big. So then they started making what was called the deep dives, right? So that you could go over all your constellations, but nobody remembered what stars were in the sky and how to navigate those. So, you know,
I kind of feel we've come back to
we're coming to it, but there's no easy navigatable way to say, this is the 5 main points I've made. This is the one that I'm really working on the most. And here's the highlights of what it is. And this is why it is applicable and what I'm doing with it. And I'm trying to say, what is it you're doing with it? And what am I doing with mine? And why is it important? And so the conversation about religion to me is important, to bring it back to what we're doing today, is because I find that it's somebody else's stars that they kind of bring into the conversation and derail the conversation with saying, I have a dichotomy way of looking at this, and if you don't look at it this way, then you're crazy. And it's funny that Jazz takes offense, because I don't know who's on first, who's on second.
What did it take offense of?
Yeah, well, see, the thing is I think
there's an answer to this, Colin. This is a simple question.
I'm skeptical, so
he took offense of that you were caricaturing his position. That's what he was pissed off of, and you have been doing that. So just
I very well may have, but it's not necessarily his position. It's that idea in general.
Yeah, but the point is that maybe he has something very specific he wants to present, which doesn't have anything to do with the general. So he doesn't want to be pigeonholed into all of those things.
Well,
why can't we just listen to what he has to say and then listen to what you have to say?
Because we have listened to each one of us, and it has gone in circles. Some of us, I think, have these journeys, you could say, and we should be allowed to explore them. And I think that's what the idea was behind deep dives, was allow somebody, but nobody documented the journey in a way that was traversable again.
Well, I think we're working on that now. I mean, that's what
that's kind of what my journey maps are. That's kind of what my journey maps are. So if I find it, like I said, it would be interesting to map out the journey of the Teen Congress I mentioned today. As far as having to talk about religion, that's kind of like where I would go off the map, off the Saturday show, and say, you know, can we have a side meeting? Because we, you know, and actually what might be more important is to go back and get those video clips of Sam saying what it is that he said that I totally agree with, and and that would be a gem. And whenever somebody comes on,
exactly.
Whenever somebody comes on and starts preaching some fundamentalist view and they don't realize it, you can push that meme button and say, are we falling victim to this meme right now or not? No offense to you with your claim. You have a claim. I don't know how confident you are in your claim. I definitely don't want Jazz Winder to feel that if I don't accept his claim that I'm making fun of him.
What is his claim? What claim does he have?
Well, I think he associates personally to what it is he believes, and if I don't that's a common thing. Like if you reject an idea, sometimes people take it personally because they have an investment in that idea, right? So he doesn't.
But if somebody has an idea that they want to share, why can't we just explore that because they want to share it?
We do.
Yeah, but I think that's a winning formula because if we just keep doing that, then we're gonna get a better here in the one racings. We're gonna get a better and better understanding of the ideas in the room and of the people in the room.
Let's bring it back to you because you like the idea. So let's say you have 5 main topics and some of them are connected together and they're on the map and they're like stars in a constellation. So everybody knows to go to this section of the sky, and that's where Glenn's big ideas are, okay?
That's simply Glenn. That's Planet Colin,
it doesn't
Planet Sam. So it's a map. It's a map.
Just you.
What?
It could be a team. One of those stars could be bigger, and it could be a team. There could be 3 or 4 people in that star. It could be
that as well.
Yeah, it could be repeated different places.
That could be done through the brain.
Well, it could be done through pencils and paper, which is what I'm trying to do. With crayons, right? Yeah. But the mental image of the fact that your ideas are there and how you're going to treat them, with how much time you're going to bring to the barn raising with them, how much attention you're giving to them, how much feedback you're getting on them, right? I think we could do that, especially in our group, because we do have this space where we can take the time and draw the map. Generally, people just trade business cards. That's their map, a phone number, or they go to their website and, or, you know, they get a reference from somebody, you know, you guys are aligned because you're in the same business together. You guys should talk. So how do you get, so how do you move your idea to, so here's the question. If you were given a day, again, of all the ideas that you have, what would you talk about and how would you do it? And why don't you do it anyway? And don't do it on Saturday, but do it with, like Sam says, I should organize this meeting about religion. Well, before I organize this meeting about religion, I would go and get, because it's religion versus science, I think is the way.
That's the boring conversation that has been going on for hundreds of years.
The
interesting would be.
We don't want to solve it. We don't want to solve it. I think we want to shine the light of coexistence onto it. How do we?
Can't we please like move a little faster, because it's like only one life. I mean, there's so many things we agree on. We don't have to like pretend that we don't understand anything. It seems clear to me that you don't clearly understand what Jazzwinder's purposes, for example, and you asked many questions about my ideas. I love that feedback, everything you said. I mean, it was very point on, and it's a work in progress, and it's about getting ready that you talked about, right? So that's a very long-term process. And for example, this idea of Team Congress, that might be a result of a lot of work Sam's done in the past that sort of led up to this position. So it seems that where we disagree is, I think that Saturdays is the place for those explorations.
I think it is too.
Exploring what people want to bring, whatever they want to bring.
I think it's true.
And we don't pigeonhole them. That's what pissed Jazzwinder off, that you pigeonhole them, or, you know,
well, we'd have to review that. We would have to review that.
Forget about that. The point is just that if we just
the problem is it's all noise, because I don't think we're in the deep end. We're splashing in the shallow end. And if we are in the deep end, then we should talk about it.
Yes. Okay. Why can't we just go to the deep end? Stop the misunderstanding.
Well, that's where the adults are talking about their ideas, where it's your responsibility for me to understand what it is you're trying to say. And I take the position, which is opposite of straw manning somebody, which is in a debate where you're trying to win your point, which I find that Jazzwinder does have a bit of a adversarial type of.
I know.
It's and that's also against my approach and my style. I don't want to be adversarial.
But it's only sometimes, right?
Well, it comes down to
adversarial.
He's about things. But so the idea is, if you're mature, then you should not strawman somebody and try to say you're wrong, I'm right, and you should, you know, and strawman them, if you know what that means. Make a false.
I know, and that's what you
should
have
ask questions.
perhaps been doing a little bit sometimes.
But I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to steel man. I don't know if I want to be the person who reviews all of your work or all of Jazzwinder's work, but I am there to support a space for you to do that work and find the most powerful way to enhance that understanding of that message. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's by monopolizing Saturdays.
That's where we disagree.
Now,
so this is
no,
the
hold
place.
on, hold on.
I think Saturdays is the place for just that.
I didn't say not to ban it. See, I got accused of banning it. Like, for example, Sam, I said the same thing to Sam, and he took it the right way. I said, this Team Congress thing, this could take over barn raising in a positive way, right? It, you know, it could grow like to something a lot bigger. And he says, well, maybe we'll review it for half an hour at the end of each show until it gets legs of its own. So, you know, we gave it probably a good half an hour dusting off today, one way or another. But it's an idea that's living, and it has a lot of synergy behind it. I think it's actually a good collaborative tool, because I think everybody sees a little piece of it that they could add to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
so
an idea that connects.
Higher priority than talking about the Big Bang or talking about how many universes there are. But that's very important.
That can be included.
I don't know how.
Well, it could simply be that there's many regular meetings between many people, and we sign up for those we're interested in. And I'm extremely interested in pursuing all those issues of truth and the things that Jaswinder talked about.
This is a support. This is a support to build up the barn, so that teens can have a space that they can feel that they can design and ask for help when they need it, and not be told what to do. And that aligns very much with what the lady Stacy said today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that's a big part behind it. You know, I think reading what Sam has written and giving Sam a proposal on how you could help out. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with infinity. I really don't. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the Big Bang.
Well, don't you think it's interesting to know what do young people think? Where do they think it began?
Sure, but that's telling them what to think about. If they come,
come on! I said this clearly. You don't say them.
Then you could tell them.
We don't tell them. We ask them. That was the whole point.
You ask them if there's
tell them anything.
Hold on. Sam has got an idea. We can't put words into what Sam's mouth is. We go read what he has first of all, okay? Because we're helping.
I heard what they said today, and that was that we don't tell them anything. We ask them, what do you think?
Yeah, we ask them what they think, and they run with the idea.
Yes.
And we don't tell them, well, you're going to need an infinity card. They might.
No, of course not.
Well, okay, they might stumble across something and say, oh, my soul, you know, we could be living in a multi-universe, and say, oh, I know a guy, Glenn, you should talk to him. So they come and say, hey, Glenn, can you tell us a little bit about the multi-universe? And you could say, well, I don't know if there's a multi-universe or not, but I think you could tell them all kinds of things. They might need it for some course that they're giving on the fact that science doesn't know everything, right? But there's a reason why they're using it. So
some would be interested in it, right?
But they ask you. They ask you. So I'm saying,
I don't know.
So if for example, say if we do the Teen Converse thing 100% of the time, and while it's going on, different people bring their pet projects into the forum and say, well, hey, I got some infinity over here. Does anybody see where that fits in? It's doesn't really work that way. So, but
I think it could work.
How do I think it works? I think it works that it's Glenn's thing. So Glenn has the responsibility of showing people why it's important. You used to do walking talks. Remember those walking talks you used to do?
Yeah. I haven't filmed it in a while, but
yeah, those are really cool. I suggested maybe to get a stabilizer, or maybe just do it with pictures, because the shaky camera effect was very distracting. But you know, I think
what if we have like a public forum and we ask young people, very simply, how do you think existence began? What do you think is true? What world would you most like to live in? And then we just have a few questions like that. and they can just run with it,
I don't know.
and then it can be documented.
I think that, you know, we're in your wheelhouse now. I think you see.
No, we're not in my wheelhouse. It's simply asking them, what do they believe? What do they want? It's got nothing to do with me. I'm talking about the young people.
Ask who, when, like during the teen congress idea?
For example, yeah. Like, or let's say, yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, those are all great ideas to, you know, prompt lots of good questions for them to ask themselves in the kit that they get. But, you know, I think leading questions can poison the well. So I don't know exactly. I think it's like big topics. Like if they're going to say climate change is most important, I don't know, maybe they're going to say bullying is most important. You know, all the adults bully everybody with all their rules. I don't know.
But if I ask them, what world do you want to live in? They're probably not going to mention bullying.
Polluted. But if they say a world's not polluted and I can buy a house like my great grandparents could.
Yeah, for example.
The answers aren't here.
One thing I don't understand, for example, is why aren't there any science fiction series which talk about utopian futures? It seems that all of them are only talking about these dystopian, dark, evil futures with one group suppressing another group. It's like, what about the good futures? I would want to know, what do young people wish for?
And that's why I say
are their dreams?
Find out. You should go find out. Sam was wondering the same thing. So maybe, you know, maybe there's the synergy there. You know, I was thinking about mapping out the process of the journey, where he is now, and you know, the meter as he goes around, how full it is, and how you know, how much his confidence is he's successing here, and has he spawned off any new conversations. And it's more of an artistic piece of a good way to go about it than the actual day-to-day tracking like you would expect to do in a database. I think to actually have a tool that actually manages this in a fault-tolerant way is a lot different. I'm working on the social aspect of it, and
you could, for example, map.
Which is I'm saying I'm using scientific method, but I'm using the scientific method on why humans, what attracts them, why they coexist, why wouldn't they coexist, and there's a few different maps for a few different scenarios. Heiner mentioned one today. When you're trying to define terms, you're not even talking about the same thing.
Yes,
right? So
that's also something that you could have on a map. You could have.
So we're not going to have
a level person's name. Map.
Yeah,
so you have a person's name, and then you have various terms that person uses, and then you have their definition of what they mean by those terms.
Right.
So if you have that in the cloud around their name, yeah, I see that on a map, and then that can be combined.
I went back and found a piece of tape. It just kind of came to me. I was looking at some stuff, and it was Tammy, Sam, and Doug talking about. They were talking about the fact that they were being pushed to have a conversation about something.
Exactly, about agreements. It was
about
Joshua.
Agreements, yeah.
Do you have the link to that? I would.
Oh yeah, I was just watching it. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Could you send me the link to that, because I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that. So anyway, the point was being is that I think they were talking about Joshua because it might even have been deep into the idea of the organization of the actual group. Like,
I think, yeah.
You know that conversation.
Yeah, that was happening.
What are the assets? Yeah. Who are looking after them? What are group assets? What are individual assets? And I'm kind of trying to map it out, right?
Yeah.
These are Glenn's things up here that Glenn deals with, and he has some things that are in common with other people. These are Sam's things. These are things he's doing. He's in common with other people. Here's the thing the GCC is doing. And some people are more group participants than they are individual participants. And who knows? Everybody comes for their own reason, and we shouldn't shun anybody, but we should definitely I'm using the word should here, find ways to be most effective. And
I guess think that can only happen
thing goes
if
off.
That can only happen if we can really listen well and study what does that person really mean and understand it.
This is the point. So they're talking about And it's been a common thing that I have on my map as well about getting ready, right?
Yeah, that's a part of getting ready.
So when they're talking about all these rules that they have to have before they get together, and what I would say, join into one of these style of maps, they're either going to be having an open conversation map or a map that's more based on defining terms, getting ready, because it's a preliminary map. Because after you worked at something for a while and everybody kind of knows what you are, and which we are getting to that point kind of here, that
can we like
you can
simply
take shortcuts. You can take shortcuts with memes because you don't need an introduction to everything every time. When somebody new comes, that's another point. When somebody new comes, how do we get them up to speed so that they can find an area? It's awful that Stacy's going to have to go through all that video. I don't think it's going to be very, it's going to be interesting for her probably, but will it be that effective?
Well, I think maybe, she'll see a lot of things.
It's going to take her, 15 years in her spare time to get through it.
Yeah, it's quite a few videos.
You can't even find the one about Sam and Doug trying to.
No, I can't.
There's a side project that
but that was what Joshua wanted to be fixed.
That's
too.
still alive. That's still alive and happening.
Yeah.
By the way. It's not on anybody's primary burner. But
at the same time, I think that isn't a big
well, here's another
problem.
Here's another one, Glenn, with the videos. Not only do we want the videos, but we want all of the transcripts in a database so that we can search them.
Well, we have that, but what we would most want.
We don't have all the transcripts in a database so we can search them.
No, maybe not in a database. No, exactly. But that we have the material out of which that.
Well, I think if we had each show's transcript in a database, we would be ready to play stage 1 of the harvesting game.
Yeah, that would be perfect for a special session.
What other things can you think of that were said that are worth bringing back? Like, and for example, haven't you already said what you want to say a few times? And do you remember when it was?
You mean to ask that question to people, or?
I'm saying you could have like 10 or 15 little snippets that you could really use to focus what it is that you're feeling when you, like, for example, you got really passionate earlier when you were talking about science, right? Well, there's something there for you, right?
Yeah, but I also think that's a question that we're all interested in.
Well, I
don't know. Use different
you could have it
names
in your
for it.
You could have it in your pile. I think everybody has a pile of those.
What if we, for example, what if we take the concept of conscious evolution, for example, which is one somewhat different entry point. That was one of the terms that, as far as I know, everybody in this group said they were interested in. It's obviously a very big thing, but let's say we could relate it with each person, with their journey. Let's say we could take it down to the level of behavior so that we could somehow skip all of those vague categories that we had problems with because people mean all kinds of different things for them, that's misunderstanding, and we could just really move from experience and listen to the best ideas of all the people in the room, and we do it with this great attention, and we build on it, and then we build maps.
Yeah, I don't think we do